Round 4 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup for 2019 brings us for the first time in the championship's history to Spain and to the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. A very warm welcome, and it is indeed a sweltering afternoon, set to get even hotter next week for the World Endurance Championship prologue, which is due to happen on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. But still getting used to the fact that the European Le Mans Series race later today will be Saturday. Michelin Le Mans Cup much more used to a Saturday race, of course, but not this early on in the day, and the ambient temperature certainly something to be factored in. We've already been to Le Castellet in the south of France then for the event at Paul Ricard, a 2-hour race there. A month later we went to the northern part of Italy to Monza for another 2-hour race, and then two 55-minute encounters during the Road to Le Mans event, one on Thursday morning of Le Mans week and one on Saturday morning. But back to the bread and butter rounds now here in Barcelona, and then in 2 months' time we head to Belgium, to Spa-Francorchamps, for a 2-hour race on the Saturday there, together with the final visit of the year to Portimao, to the Algarve circuit in the south of Portugal. So this is round 4, or round 5 to some, because of course we had 2 races at Le Mans, but championship points were divvied out for 25 for the race wins at Ricard and Monza, and half points effectively for the 2 Le Mans races. It's a 4.6 kilometre circuit around here, 30 metres difference in elevation change as well, and lots of high speed straights down to hard braking, medium and slow speed corners. A real challenge, and thank you for joining Johnny Palmer and Graham Goodwin at dailysportscar.com to take you through this. This is going to be a warm one, I think, Graham.
It's going to be warm today. It's going to get warmer through the day and warmer still later in this weekend into next week, when we have the Michelin Le Mans Cup, of course, with the LMS this evening. And the WC boys and girls join us for the WC prologue later this week here at Barcelona. It's going to be well into the 30 degree plus mark by that stage, and it's pretty close to it right now. Boiling hot. After storms as we arrived in Barcelona, it's been clear skies throughout, and very steamy indeed. Motorsport 98, Johnny making their comeback to the Michelin Le Mans Cup with their very distinctive dark grey and orange Ligier. And it is very much in the LMP3 stakes a Ligier versus Norma encounter. The Normas at the moment have it.
Yes, because 3 out of the 4 pole positions so far this season taken by a Norma M30. On 2 occasions it's been the number 3 DKR Engineering entry for Francois Kerman and Laurence Heur. That car does start on the front row, but not from pole position. A pole already this season for the Ligier run by Kio Racing, but they've changed their driver squad for this weekend. So welcome back to the championship Alain Costa, and Johan Jokinen is the new Danish driver to join Danish outfit Kio Racing. The other pole position going the way of Mikey Benham and Duncan Tappy, number 25. And there's a story there, Graham Goodwin, because unfortunately for this latest round of the championship we are without our championship leaders.
I'm afraid we are, in the most dramatic of circumstances, during the bronze test yesterday, and what I believe happened is one of the other cars out there and testing or bedding in brakes. Mikey Benham unfortunately caught out by the car braking hard in front of him. The 25 car, very heavy hit into and over what I believe was one of the Cool Racing cars, and ended up barrel rolling the car at high speed. Huge damage to the car. Happily, not so much damage to Mike. He is in hospital undergoing observation. If you're listening, Mike, thoughts are with you. Come back quickly. I'd like to see you back at Silverstone. But I'm afraid we are not going to see the championship leading car racing this weekend here in Barcelona, and that's a real shame.
It certainly is, and of course what it does mean is that the way is open now for those in the championship behind to make up ground and potentially even overtake, because in LMP2 just 8 points back, Francois Kerman and Laurence Heur, as I say, starting from the front row. Tony Wells and Colin Noble could benefit as well. They're in 3rd position in the LMP3 Championship on 43 points. So to give you the teams, the table is topped by Lannon Racing, but they will not score today. DKR Engineering, the number 3 car, second in the championship. Nielsen Racing, number 2, third, ahead of the 39 Graf car after a really good effort from the 39 crew to take pole position earlier on today. So Adrian Schiller, Nicolas Schatz. It'll be Schiller by the looks of things to start that car after he qualified it so well, and Nicolas Schatz rapid after coming into the championship a few years ago from French hill climbing, and a multi-champion he was in that discipline.
Yeah, like a fine wine, this championship, as it gets into maturity, just gets better and better and better. Great teams, really good cars, and teams and drivers learning more about how to campaign. That, of course, is what this is all about with the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It is a rung on the ladder. Soon, in fact next year, to become not the bottom rung on the ladder, with the announcement yesterday of the Ligier European Series that will join the European Le Mans Series at 5 of their rounds next season, with an all-Ligier grid of the JSP4 as a prototype and the JS2R GT cars, operating a rung below the Michelin Le Mans Cup. But it has been a very effective way of promoting talents and passion about endurance racing, mixed class endurance racing, since the LMP3 cars were introduced to the championship just a couple of seasons ago. And, well, Johnny Palmer, what can you say? Close to 30 cars on this grid, dominated numerically by the LMP3s, but with a cracking little grid of GT3 cars in support, and that all too often provides real dramas and real action, the like of which you don't see in any sort of racing outside of mixed class sports car racing, and it really is a mini ELMS.
Yeah, and the momentum has been building over the last few years, as you say. So looking forward to the next era of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, but we're only halfway through this current year. A brief glimpse a moment or two ago of the CD Sports squad. We should mention them, seeing as they're from Spain and have qualified their number 30 car on the third row, the outside of the third row in 6th position, and Jacques Wolf already installed to do the opening stint. He is the bronze, so had to qualify the car a little earlier on, and Jacques, well, rather advisedly, not being in the car right now, standing in the shade. Alongside him is Kevin Bol-Bessasson, who is his co-driver, and Bol-Bessasson with the race suit undone to the waist, just to try and cool off as much as possible. Even on the grid, these cars are having to be cooled down. So you can imagine the skyrocketing temperatures when they get to race speed, and 2 hours into this race.
It is lovely in the shade. I have to tell you, the conditions just perfect in the shade, but into the glare of the sunlight, and boy, the heat comes pouring at you. It is very warm indeed.
There is a little bit of a breeze, you can tell by the odd flag fluttering here and there, which just takes the edge off it as well, and certainly not as hot as it's going to be in the middle of next week, when we're expecting 34, 35 degrees for the WEC Prologue. 4th position, a change of name at Racing Experience. Nicolas Mellin now joining that team, number 11, and he will start that car. And it is Gary Hauser joining alongside. Sometimes we get David, sometimes we get Gary, the two Luxembourgish hill climbers. And interest very, very high indeed down on the grid, with plenty of special guests, just mixing it with the drivers and the team personnel.
Number 2 car, Tony Wells and Colin Noble. This is a pairing that has got some future ahead of it, I think, in sports car racing. Lots of plans for Tony and Colin to be using a remarkable amount of each other at racetracks in the coming season or more. They've been together now in all sorts of championships, LMP3 machinery, particularly the last couple of years. There's the number 3 car, and as Johnny was saying, 2 pole positions to that car this season so far. Didn't quite do it this time though, Johnny.
No, just pipped to the post, but it was tight, wasn't it? Just 54 thousandths of a second between Francois Kerman's time and Adrian Schiller, who eventually managed to grab pole position with not a moment to lose. Remember, just 15 minutes that these cars get to qualify. If you cross the line with just a few seconds left on the clock, the checkered flag falls behind you, then you do manage to squeeze an extra lap out of it. Adrian Schiller, from memory, didn't actually need that final lap, and managed to do a 1:42.895 therefore to pip to the post at the Francois Kerman time. I beg your pardon, that time was done on Schiller's final lap. So Kerman did it fairly early on in the session on lap 3, but on lap 8 of 8, Adrian Schiller going 54 thousandths of a second faster. Here is the grid then, confirmation of that front row. Graf versus DKR Engineering, both are well and truly up there in the championship. Then it'll be Nielsen Racing and Racing Experience, both with Norma M30s on the second row. The first Ligier is the number 90 car, driven by Alexander Taukanitsa Senior, the 57-year-old of Belarus, sharing with son Alexander Taukanitsa Jr. So they will start from 5th position alongside the local team, CD Sport, with Jack Wolf to start. Row 4 is another DKR Engineering car, the green and black machine, number 5, alongside the first of the United Autosports Ligiers. And right behind that, the Swiss outfit Cool Racing, with a couple of cars in the championship. And it'll be Maurice Smith to start that. Eric Trouillet from the outside of the 5th row. Still in the LMP3s here, just to illustrate how many there are. Grain Market Racing, run by Nielsen Racing, start 11th alongside the other United Autosports car of Mike Gouache. RLRM Sport with Canadian driver James Dayson, and Returnees Motorsport 98 will start 14th with the team owner Eric Dodonka. Spirit of Race Claudio Zdanovic starting from 15th position alongside the car of Philippe Chimadomo for Cool Racing. Then Kia Racing, Alain Costa, the Monegasque, is back in the championship, joining that Danish outfit. Cool Racing's other Ligier starts alongside on row 9. And then row 10 is one of each, an LMP3 and the pole sitter from GT3. We haven't mentioned a great deal about Krypton Motorsport, but it was Stefano Pizzucchi who did the time. It'll be his teammate Marco Zanettini to do the opening stint in Mercedes number 35. The 11th row is Kessel and Lusich Racing, both of Switzerland. Sergio Pianezzola and Giacomo Piccini, the defending champions. Remember, Mikkel Mack and Fabien Laverne, they look strong from 3rd place in GT3. Ebby Motors and SPS Automotive Performance of Italy and Germany, respectively. Then we got Spirit of Race Ferrari, the Christoph Ulrich and Maurizio Mediani car. It'll be Ulrich to start alongside Mauro Calamia's Scuderia Villorba Corsa Mercedes. The Beechstein AMR entered Aston Martin of Andrew Howard starts from 27th position, and where is that? 8th in class, right in front of the Kessel Racing number 50 car of John Hartshorn and Ollie Hancock. So there are your runners and riders. Notably, though, the absentee, Lannon Racing number 25.
Absolutely. Now, looking up and down that list, I'm pretty certain the only team that is starting a non-qualifying driver that didn't run in the qualifying session is the number 7 Scuderia Villorba Corsa squad, 26th on the grid and 7th in GT3. And it looks to me as if, well, it's Roberto Pampanini, wasn't it, that qualified the car, but it's going to be their silver ranked driver, Mauro Calamia, that will start the race. We have on occasion seen the higher ranked driver, certainly for cars lower down the grid, have a bit of a crack at this, but that appears to be the only one this time. It is absolutely, with the exception of that car, the lineup that we actually had for this morning's qualifying session.
Yes, and I wonder whether there's a likelihood of a safety car partway through the race, and if this field gets bunched up, you prefer to have your faster driver at the wheel. But of course, the chances of catching a faster driver, if the gap's already 30 seconds, are rather slim, because the difference in times when you get to the golds and the silvers very minute indeed. The race often won and lost on the bronze stint.
Absolutely. And I guess there's a balance of probabilities, aren't there? There is a reckoning that you are more likely to get an incident of significance and therefore lose some time at the start of this race when the cars are in closer contention.
True.
You would do later. But we've seen that one thrown to the winds, literally. Winds and rain in the past by changes in weather. We're not going to get that today by the look of things. I think these guys know exactly where it's at. It's T-shirt and shorts weather.
Yeah, very pleasant indeed. And we're about to head into the sort of mid-term break, if you like, for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, because at the end of this, these cars don't go to Silverstone, because it'll be a 4-hour ELMS race on the Saturday and a 4-hour World Endurance Championship race on the Sunday. Not the room, therefore, to cram in the Michelin Le Mans Cup into the schedule, but we'll see them back at Spa. ACO President Pierre Fillon on the grid there, and he will be rightly very pleased indeed with the state of health of this championship, as will CEO of LMEM, who look after the LMS and this championship and the WEC, Gerard Neveu. The pair of them actually just touring the grid there to see their good works, and they looked at it and it was good. Absolutely. And now heading towards the rear of the field, where they can nip through the pit wall and get a grandstand seat for this 2-hour race. Paul Ricard, you may remember, was a good weekend for Sergio Pianezzola and Giacomo Piccini to kick off their title defending year. A victory by over a minute in the end from the 54 SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes. At Monza, it was the first victory of the year for Mikkel Mack and Fabien Leverne, and Lucich Racing look incredibly strong again for this one, winning by 3/4 of a minute over the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari. And it was a double victory in the Road to Le Mans races, the 55 or 56 as it turned out to be, 56-minute long races for the 71 Ferrari. So they are certainly the team to beat right now, and although they only qualified in 3rd position, look very, very strong going into this one. Have a lead of 18 points in the championship over Puccini and Pianezzola. It's a little tighter as far as the championship's concerned in LMP3, and set to get even closer because of Duncan Tappy and Mikey Benham suddenly not being able to start this race. The 1 minute to go board is now displayed as the sun beats down on the Barcelona asphalt, and in a moment or two the cars will be released onto their green flag lap.
Yeah, grid being cleared of the paraphernalia of the starts of an international motor race, and to see the cars buttoned down and ready to roll. Sounds that we've not got too much longer in the future. The current Nissan V8s in the back of the LMP3 cars. New cars coming, of course, for next season in 2020.
Yes, and they were all 4 were on display at Le Mans, were they not?
Sort of. 3 of the 4. Okay. We didn't see the Duquesne car. We saw a display car of the Norma. We've not yet seen the Duquesne.
Yes, because the Norma name is going to be replaced by Duquesne,
because they now own that programme. And we saw the new Ligier. That's had a lot of testing. In fact, there's one of them here on display. We saw the revised Adesse. We saw the new Ginetta. Spectacular looking cars they all are. But not yet seen the new Duquesne.
Yeah, but what it does mean is more variety in the field, and potentially with all those cars coming out at the same time, they're going to be all competitive as well. Whereas Ligier in the older days of Michelin Le Mans Cup and indeed ELMS competition were the car to beat. It has since become the Norma M30, but a far more balanced playing field, arguably, heading into this new era of LMP3 competition.
Yeah, I had a long conversation with an established player in LMP3, and there's genuine choice now, if you like, in the marketplace, that we're all waiting with bated breath to see what happens with the Duquesne. But it has to be said, heads turned by the changes that the previously dominant Ligier operation have made, and in particular the head turner for a lot of people visually, at the very least, has been the Ginetta, which is a real looker. Clear styling cues and therefore aerodynamic cues from the company's LMP1 car, and can't wait to see that car out in testing. It should be later this summer when they get their turn with the new Nissan engine. It's a substantial power boost in these cars. Cars are also featuring traction control, revised aerodynamics, and indeed upgraded safety features. So a substantial step forward, but not for a lot more money for those cars. But for now, we'll get the treat that is this current grid. It's a great looking grid.
It certainly is, and yeah, the numbers in ELMS continue to grow, and those that then cannot be found or accommodated in the European Le Mans Series entry, the option is always there to run in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And if you're new to prototype racing, this is the perfect opportunity for a smaller team to become established, to get interest from customers and drivers that want to take part and be run by you. And gradually the freight train gets up to speed, and you see 1-car teams stretching to 2 and even 3-car teams. At Le Mans we had plenty of teams out with 4 different cars as part of the Road to Le Mans event, so interest definitely there. The same goes for GT3 as well, and we have had in the past 5 and 6 cars, but it's up to 9 this weekend, and a burgeoning field again to be seen at the Road to Le Mans event last month in GT3, which provided a tremendous race.
Nicely balanced variety as well. We've got Porsche, Aston Martin, Mercedes-AMG and Ferrari represented in this 9-car GT3 field, and we've seen all of those makes in contention for podium places at a variety of parts of the season so far. Lamborghini also represented in earlier rounds. No doubt we'll see them back again.
Yeah, well, Scuderia Villorba Corsa have run a Mercedes and a Lamborghini from the same awning, haven't they? Which has always fascinated me. I think that's down to customer programming more than anything else. But the gold and black Mercedes AMG is present on the grid for the Italian squad. They are 7th in the order. But we'll concentrate on the sharp end for the time being, because 4 Normas locking out the front 2 rows are just coming through the final corner in readiness for this 1 o'clock start. We are bang on the nosy 1 p.m. and a 2-hour race for the Michelin Le Mans Cup about to get going. Fairly tidy start at the front, but the grid formation very untidy in the midfield. Everyone being told to just temper their speed. Are we going to go for a race start? Yes, we are. And now all of a sudden, everybody fans out to try and be something like 4 abreast. They've managed it. The number 3 car getting the jump, though, away from a slow-starting Adrian Schiller. So he started from pole. He's already down to 4th position, is Schiller, the Frenchman, sharing with Nicolas Schatz, going a little bit wide as Nicolas Mellin there, slotting into, well, very nearly 2nd position. And hang on a minute.
Extra formation lap.
Are we racing? No, we're not.
I think it seemed to me that they called that start, if indeed it was a start call, the lights went out very, very late.
Yeah. Well, for me, they just weren't quite in formation either. There was too much overlapping. There was a bizarre thing going on there on row 5 with cars together that maybe shouldn't have been, actually.
But they've still not got the start called, and we're almost the front of the grid. Then they go, and almost when they're under the gantry.
I'll tell you who'll be very, very pleased about that. Francois Kerman, who was about half a car ahead of the 39
watch how late
car.
This went out. Now it goes.
Yeah.
And they were almost under the gantry when that happened.
Yes, they were.
And I just wonder whether or not he was actually unsighted by that. The red lights came back on straight away, by the way. Just spotted that on the replay. So the red lights came back on. They would have been told on the radio almost immediately.
Well, thankfully, disaster averted, because we've had that scenario in the past, and it's resulted in a multi-car pile-up right at the rear of the field. But everybody was well aware, and I think the message coming through these receivers that everyone wears in their ears from Eduardo Freitas, so everybody gets the message at the same time. The yellow flags came out initially as well from the marshals at turns 1, 2 and 3, and that just eased the pace down again. But everyone's going to be now single file. This is an extra formation lap, and the clock has started to tick down, so we are effectively into the race duration now. It remains to be seen whether this is going to be a nose-to-tail restart, or, as it should be, sort of side-by-side Noah's Ark style.
It's a formation lap. It should be in a grid formation. I'm sure race director Eduardo Freitas and his team are talking to the teams, but there's a little bit of work to do to get this back on track for a race start.
There looked to be some confusion between Maurice Smith in the number 74 Cool Racing car and which of the Triers? Eric Trier in the number 9 Graf car that was side by side, and then it was almost as if they were having a conversation going, no, we shouldn't be side by side, and then they went back to side by side again. But this looks a lot better, and they're already 2 abreast, actually now coming through, what's that, turn 12.
Yeah,
the problem is
they're way behind.
Yeah, everybody else hasn't caught up yet.
So now we've got the lead pack having slowed and got it together, but the rest of the pack is going to have to get their act together very quickly here.
They deliberately don't take the chicane at 14 and 15 because that would be perilous, trying to run 2 abreast cars through a very, very tight chicane. I still think that's going to be mightily entertaining for you and I to watch them through that chicane for the first couple of laps.
Here we go, and I think we're just about there.
Well, this looks a lot better, and Francois Kerman has hopefully learned from his mistake, because as he crossed the line, he was definitely ahead of Adrian Schiller, who he should be behind, because Schiller out-qualified the DKR engineering machine, remember, and Kerman is about a half a car length back this time, which is much better. So we've already had nearly 3.5 minutes of this race, still waiting for the go-ahead. The red lights are on, and now they're extinguished, and that looks much better from my perspective. Much tidier restart. Can Adrian Schiller get a better getaway, because he lost the lead? In fact, he went down to 4th position last time around. This time he's going to keep the lead, and Francois Kerman cannot find a way around the outside into turn 1 to take the race lead. So it'll be Graf out front, DKR into 2nd, and the Tony Wells car, number 2,
drops to 4th
place. So who was that benefiting?
That is the other car that I hadn't spotted. Has had a change since qualifying. It's Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. was shown on timing and scoring as being in the car, but was not in the car for qualifying. But he is in the car now, and he's immediately taken advantage He's leapfrogged the number 2 Norma. He's up into 3rd position in the AT Racing Ligier. So it's Norma, Ligier, Norma at the moment, the top 4. United Autosports cars tussling around in the midfield there.
And somebody else who's charging like crazy is Alessandro Baccani, who started 4th in GT3s. He now leads the race and is up to 15th position overall. So Baccani for the Ebby Motors gang, number 88, now leading from Sergio Pianazzola for Kessel and the Spirit of Race car of Christoph Ulrich.
I think a couple of the more experienced gentlemen in the GTs have taken advantage of maybe a little bit of nervousness for some of the less experienced LMP3 drivers at the start of that race. The race started under investigation. There's a surprise. We always see that anyway, but I've got a feeling there might be something there. And some of the, how can I put it, more savvy GT guys will have taken the opportunity to be perhaps a little bit more forceful than they otherwise might as the cars come through the chicane for the first time. Johnny quite rightly said, not used during the formation laps, plural. And away we go. Yeah.
Well, I think this race start investigation will involve a bit less work than it might have done had we gone with the first start of the race, because there were all sorts of cars out of position for that. Over the line then goes Marcello Marattiotto, who's going strongly in the DKR Engineering Norma. That's the green and black car, which is running 5th, ahead of Maurice Smith for Cool Racing, and the racing engineering machine of Nicolas Mellin, who started 4th. He's dropped back a little bit, but still in the mix. 2 Ferraris. Let's hope they don't touch as they head down towards the first corner, because effectively they run out of the same awning. Lucich Racing is the 71. That's Fabien Laverne pulling a move on Christoph Ulrich, and 71 goes through into 3rd position.
It was Christoph Ulrich and the Cool Racing car, John Schaumann, in the same move by Fabien Laverne. It didn't look as if he could quite get that hold back on the anchors, but he did it. It did look like he was bound for the right door of the other Ferrari for one moment, but round we go and no harm done. Adrian Chiller, by the way, 2 seconds to the good ahead of Kierman after lap 1 and pulling away here.
Great start from Alexander Taukanitsa Jr., as you say. It was his dad who qualified, although we had some confusion at the time because of a misreading driver ID sensor. Tony Wells 4th position, then Marattiotto in the green and black car, and right behind in the metallic blue with the green door mirrors is the first of the Cool Racing cars, and Maurice Smith, the American driver there, sharing with Victor Bludgeon once again this weekend.
Those cars getting away here and pulling with them just a little the racing experience car, Nicolas Mellin. Those cars, though, are pulling away from a group behind, headed by Trullier in the number 9 Graf car. The top 7 cars beginning to gap the rest of the field here as we come towards the end of lap 2. We'll keep an eye on the way that pendulum swings.
Mike Gouache is now in front of Rod Hodes. I think I read that correctly. Yeah, so the 24 car now up ahead of 23. Let's see if that's just confirmed at the end of the lap. No, I was misreading it. Hodes again ahead of Gouache, in fact. So 23 leads 24. Then James Dayson in the RLR M Sport car is 12th position behind, or rather ahead of Jim Maguire. So the 3 United Autosports cars running relatively close to one another, and that is in turn ahead of Alessandro Baccani, who still just about hangs on to the lead in GT3.
So Adrian Chiller is making hay at the moment. He is 2.5 seconds to the good now. 145 last time around to no better than 146 elsewhere, no better than 147 from 3rd place and downwards. So the top 3 beginning to pull away a little. Tony Wells hanging on in there, and Marattiotto just in his wheel tracks. It's a race of pace right now, and in the heat of this day, I think you're going to start to see, as we get deeper into these stints, some of these less experienced drivers begin to struggle with stamina here. It is properly hot. We've seen some drivers, I know you were saying yesterday, one or two of the drivers that we're used to seeing getting out of particularly LMP2 cars in the European Le Mans Series after a free practice session, if not looking in distress, certainly looking like it had been pretty hard work that we wouldn't normally see in that condition.
Yes, true, and this is where your endurance training comes in, I suppose. It's partly the reason, I believe, why the ELMS is being run into the evening as well, to avoid the heat of the day tomorrow. There's bit of a
big
screwy
wiggle.
moment there. That's Rod Hodes, and this might give the opportunity to Mike Gwash. His teammate is right behind him. The danger is, of course, you have a moment and your teammate sitting right behind. It could take the two of you out. And also monstering now, James Dayson, who wants to pick off at least one of these United Autosports cars. We've got a little Canadian versus USA battle here with Dayson, the Canadian driver, then from north of the border, racing for British outfit RLRM Sport.
Yeah, it's American Canadian, isn't it? That's 1, 2, 3. Rob Hodes from memory, US driver as well. So the North American LMP3 Championship plays its way out. We've got some debris on the back. That is the Galaxy panel on the rear of the number 30 car.
Yeah.
So that car's had a bit of a biff.
Yeah, sometimes called the cheese wedge or the bullet. And it carries a tail light as well, but needs to be in place as it protects the Galaxy panel area. So I wonder whether that car's going to be called in, i.e. given the black flag with the orange dot, the mechanical warning flag to rectify that issue. They're always tricky to sort out and repair when you're trying to do it in race. Already had 10 minutes of this encounter though, and it's starting to just ease up a little bit for Adrian Schiller in terms of the pressure. 1.5 seconds currently separates race leader from Francois Kerman in second position.
Looking at the battle for 10th position. And then beyond is the GT leader tussling away with some mid to lower field LMP3s. Remember there with... Oh, he turns it around, tries to stay clear of the Kessel racing car, but Mark Kramer in the Grey Market racing car turns around the Norma, goes onto the dirty side of the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely no grip out there. Very, very dusty offline. And although we've had plenty of running yesterday, remember it's effectively a 3-day meeting condensed into 2 days. And these cars had 2-hour-long practice sessions yesterday. But still, there's a lot of debris offline, whether that be tyre marbles or just a little bit of dust and grime, which you always get building up during a race meeting. The number 2 car, Tony Wells, going strongly. He's only 0.6 of a second off the back of Taukenitzer Jr. now.
But ahead of them, the lead gap is coming down quite rapidly on the last lap. Adrian Schiller being caught back up now by Francois Kerman. 5 laps down, it's now 1.6 seconds is the gap. Fastest lap of the race last time around went to the second place man at 1:44.790. Schiller has responded with the fastest first sector this time around. That looks like a jewel to keep an eye on. Tony Wells is tracking Alexander Taukenitzer, keeping him in his sights. It's around a second is the gap. And in GT, well, Bacani is well away. Piazzolla, a couple of cars behind in the train, but not that far back in terms of time. Then we've got a battle for third position between Calamia. Remember, this is the silver rank driver in the number 3 Scuderia Valorma Corsa car, and in his tracks, Fabien Laverne we saw make that move up the inside of both one of the Ferraris and an LMP3 car. That's put him into contention for third position.
Long line of cars heading towards turn 10, which is the hard braking area after the straight. So you've got the right-hander at 9, which is very, very fast indeed, and then leads into the complex end to the lap, which is very technical, particularly around the chicane. 88 leads GT3 from the 8 car, so Bacani from Pianazzola, 2 Italian drivers out front, one in a very German car though, the other in the first of the 488s run by Swiss outfit Kessel Racing, and then everybody else bunching up behind because the battle for 3rd and 4th in GT3 at Maura Calamia versus Fabien Laverne.
They're pulling away from the remainder of the GT3 pack, those 4. Meantime, at the front of the race, Adrian Schiller, lead dropped back to 1.2 seconds. It was purple sectors last time around from Schiller in 1 and 2, but lost all of that good work in sector 3 and 0.3 of a second on the lap in the bargain.
Unfortunately, it's not been the best of starts for Krypton Motorsport. They took pole position earlier on today, currently circulating in 6th position with Marco Zanettini doing the driving, but we still have the co-driver in that outfit who did the qualifying time, let us not forget. So car 35 will be taken over by Stefano Pizzucchi at about half distance. Remember, each driver, regardless of grading, has to do a minimum of 55 minutes. But often these races can run to maybe 2 hours and 1 minute, 2 hours and 2 minutes, so you can get an extra few minutes out of it that way. We've seen that before from teams. Been really concerned that they've not changed come the 65-minute marker in the race, but as long as you go to the longer distance required, all is fine. It's just, to me, a bit of a dangerous game to play that way.
Absolutely. 14 minutes rather into this 2-hour race. Shape beginning to emerge. Adrian Schiller appears to have stabilised the gap for the moment. He's got the measure just now of the chasing Francois Kierman. This pair, though, are pulling away from Alexander Talkanitsa. The gap between the top two and the third position man, nearly 7 seconds now. And Tony Wells is now right with and by Talkanitsa.
Oh, yes.
Takes that position, so Tony Wells makes the normal 1-2-3. Nielsen Racing's number 2 car goes by and up into third spot. Now, what can Tony Wells do about the gap of the 2 leaders? You see that happen again under braking for turn 1. Classic overtaking position here at the Circuit de Catalunya. And Wells, I've no doubt, will have been told the top 2 are getting away. You need to get by. Tony's executed that move to perfection.
Yeah, no real defence offered by Talkanitsa Jr. I think he knew his goose was cooked there. And inside line for Wells. I just feared he might run out wide on the exit, but did very nicely. And another man charging here is Matatiotto in the green DKR Engineering Norma, all over the curves at turn 8. They reach turn 9, which is a bit of a crest as well as a right-hander. And Talkanitsa Senior there, who is Alex's dad.
Slightly resigned look there, wasn't there?
He didn't look best chuffed, I have to say. Maybe realising that the Ligier now is up against the wall of Normas that are in front and behind, but sadly they're becoming more Normas in front as we go.
23 and 24, still battling away, Rod Hodes and Mark Guash. Still in their wheel tracks, James Dayson. This is still the battle for 10th position, closely fought between these 3. Slightly smoky into the corner there from 96 Cool Racing car, way wide from one of the Ferraris.
Now, is that Laverne or is that the 51 of Christoph Ulrich?
That was Laverne, I think.
It could have been. Yeah, because the Mercedes is ahead of it, Mara Calamia. So Laverne with a big error there at turn 10, running out of road. Thankfully, there's a large section of red concrete that you can run over and recover your moment, rather than it being gravel and a tyre wall. But all the hard work there to try and reel in the 7 car, undone.
Absolutely, that will be a source of massive relief, I'm sure, to the Mercedes MG man, which is they like a race, they like a gap a little bit more. And now safely in and into the pits comes Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. That will be why there was that look on the face of his father. Trouble for what had been the third place running Ligier.
I hadn't noticed a considerable drop-off in pace, but obviously they could see it on the data. That'll be the reason why Talkanitsa Jr. just didn't defend at all.
Rear deck is off the car, and that does not look good news.
Peering at the engine, the 5-litre Nissan power plant, and it's almost like they've decided it's terminal now.
Yeah, there's
all
not
they're
a lot
doing
of
is
work
staring
going
at
on
it.
there. And by a lot or not, I mean none. And out of the car he gets, and I think that is race done for the AT Racing car.
What a shame. The car that qualified in 5th position, they got up as high as 3rd in the opening few minutes, and then all of a sudden the pace of the car just dropped away like falling off the edge of a cliff, and it's going to be packed away for the weekend.
That absolutely explains the expression we saw on Alexander Talkanitsa Senior's face. Time to go to the beach, boys.
Well, not very far away. Costa Brava, just a few miles north of us.
Actually, quite a nice beach here in Barcelona.
Yes, yeah, you're right. And it's amazing. You forget how close this track is to the coast, but half an hour in a car would do it, maybe less than that.
Well, if
anyway,
you drive as fast as they do, it's probably quicker than half an hour.
I'll be taking the van.
Meanwhile, quick laps coming in from the second place car, the gap down to 1.3 seconds. Tony Wells is beginning to respond to that challenge. He's holding the gap at 9.5 seconds to the leader and clearly pushing to try to keep himself and his teammate later in the race, Colin Noble, in contention here.
1.3 seconds the gap between Schiller and Kerman. It has been more than that, and 8 seconds now adrift, though, Tony Wells from the leading duo. Schiller and Kerman are the bronzes, so gap's potentially only going to get bigger when we get to the driver change part of the race. Remember, each driver has to do 55 minutes, so we're looking at about 55 into the race. There's about a 10-minute pit stop window there, and the pit stops are dictated by time, so cannot beat the minimum pit stop time, but teams will run it as close as they dare from pit in to pit out, and we have seen teams fall short by sometimes tenths of seconds, hundreds of seconds, and that means they have to come in and serve the penalty, which is usually the time that they didn't do in the pit stop. So come in maybe for a stop-go or for a hold for 3 seconds, let's say, and then go out again. But it's far more costly than that because it also requires a trip down the pit lane.
3-car battle for 10th, with the apparent retirement of the number 90 car becomes a 4-car battle for 8th, because the two United Autosports cars and the RLR M Sport car in line astern are now closing on the 30 CD Sport car, Jacques Wolf, for 8th position. At the moment, it's about a closing gap for the overall lead. Look how big a lead this pair have got. This is Adrian Schiller, Francois Kerman. At 1.3 seconds it was last time through a timing beam. It looks, if anything, less than that now.
Kerman really turning up the wicket. Now I wonder whether he's decided to just do the first part of the race, take it relatively gingerly, make sure he looks after his tyres, and then he's got a bit more Michelin rubber to lean on later on in the stint. But yeah, you're right, it's coming down to, well, 1.2 seconds. I remember it being 1.8 not too long ago.
It was more than that. It was I think it was around 3 seconds at one point. It was 3 seconds, then reeled right back in.
So what's Adrian Schiller up to here? Is he just giving as much as he can now after rocketing away at the start? Possibly playing on his mind still was that initial start to the race, which was judged to be not quite a false start, but everyone was told there'll be 2 formation laps now because that first attempt at the start was so untidy. And he made a much better getaway than the second time of asking, retained the lead rather than falling back to 4th position. However, Francois Kerman, more consistent, you have to say, and really wheeling in the Graf liveried car, Graf run car in that red, white and blue colours. Over the line they will go virtually together. What's the gap? 7/10 of a second now.
Absolutely, it's coming down and down and down. Graf Racing from DKR Engineering. DKR Engineering have become a real force in LMP3, particularly in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Dominant last season.
Well, we actually, in the history of LMP3 in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, we haven't had any other winners in the championship other than DKR Engineering, and they are going strongly in this championship as well, but have 8 points to make up on Lannon, who are not in this race for reasons we've already explained. An hour and 38 minutes still to go. Already had some drama though, sadly, for the number 90 car that qualified 5th, got as far up as 3rd in the race, but looks to be a retirement. Let's get more with Lou Beckett now, who's with Alexander Talkanitsa.
Yes, we can see the number 90 in 80s in the pit lane. Alexander, tell us the problem.
Unfortunately, we think it should be our race. Everything was very good, but our exhaust system is broken. We cannot continue because it just can be fire.
It's a real shame for you. I can see you're disappointed.
Sorry?
It's a real shame. I can see your disappointment.
Yeah, it was. We make just a good weekend. A lot of work with setup, and finally, quali was very good. Start was perfect, absolutely, and you know, when you are ready, prepare, and then suddenly happened. It's normal emotion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
A real shame for both the Talkanitsas, Austrian-based, although from Belarus originally, and we've seen them in ELMS, we've seen them in Michelin Le Mans Cup more recently as well, but that car out of the race. Meanwhile, what a stonking fight we have at the moment for, well, CD Sport are involved, and therefore falling back a little bit. Jacques Wolf being monstered by the 2 United Autosports cars and James Dayson, I reckon, Graham.
And indeed, the 2 United Autosports cars have come together.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear. So, yes, all 4 of these cars in the mix in a variety of ways. And what happened there? That was the Rob Hode's car going around. Was he clattered by? Was it just
I'm
the
not
car?
sure, actually.
I think it might have been just the car unsettled by the curbs. But wait till they come around to call exactly whether it's Mike Guash survives unscathed. He comes through in 8th position. James Dayson is a big winner through in 9th. Jack Wolf, after losing 3 positions, gains 1 back to Rod Hodes, who's through in 11th position. And United Autosports, by the way, in a significant weekend for the team here. This is their 299th race, which means this evening's race is a significant milestone.
Of course, absolutely. So they'll be looking forward to that. There's just enough time in the evening when we finish at 10:30 to get the celebratory cake and a few beers out, I'm
Absolutely.
sure.
There'll be another job for Charlotte Lumley to organise.
I don't think she'll have a problem somehow. Seems to be right up her street. Oh, problem there for Dayson, who's clipped the grass on the approach to turn 9, which is an incredibly quick right-hander, and the car leaves the track at high speed. Thankfully, again, the gravel trap did a very good job. Tagged the wall, but very slightly, and the yellow flags are out there. But that was James Dayson in the wash behind.
Just a puff
Was
of
that Rob
dust, wasn't
Hodes
there?
he was following at the time?
It was it was Mike Guash.
Glash, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, because Wolf and Hodes
It was
immediately.
the tiniest touch on the outside there.
Yeah, but it just shows, doesn't it, how much the cars are leaning on the rear left tyre at that point, and all of a sudden there's no traction because the tyre is on the grass rather than the asphalt, and very quickly it swaps ends on James, and that will have caught his attention, no doubt. So lots changing in the kind of lower order of the top 10 there, because Mike Guash, brilliant avoidance driving, if indeed he did miss Rod Hodes, who spun right in front of him. Guash up to 8th. Jack Wolf benefits from 1 or 2 slipping off in front of him, now 9th for CD Sport for the Spanish outfit. Rob Hodes is in 10th position, and Jim Maguire in the 3rd of the United Autosports cars, running in 11th place in car 22.
30 seconds to full course yellow.
As you heard, we're going to full course yellow. That will be to allow safe recovery back to the racetrack.
20 seconds to full course yellow.
For the RRM Sport car. We hear from race control.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow. Full course yellow.
The problem is, of course, if you're already overlapping cars as you go into a full course yellow, it is tricky then to know what order to continue in.
Well, just watch that there. That was, I think it's at the Kia racing car, anticipating the call to full course yellow. Mark Crader, meanwhile, was under clear instructions from his pit crew when to actually lift, and actually made the pass, as I think I heard Eduardo Freitas counting 3.
Okay.
Great career ahead of him, by the way. Rod Freitas is a speaking clock, I reckon.
Yeah.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, never misses a second. So you reckon then some perfectly timed overtaking there?
I think so. Yep.
Because until he says full course yellow, you can still be overtaking.
You most certainly can.
So that looks to be a good bit of driving, potentially, as Adrian Schiller has also done a nice bit of driving and somehow opened up well, because I was slightly concerned where Francois Kerman was there. As Schiller got to the end of the main straight, Kerman no longer on his back bumper. Just describe this moment to you again about James Dayson, who, yes, caught the grass, caught the dirt on the approach to turn 9. Then at the turning point, the rear left just did not grip. Now, whether that's because it was still on the grass or just because it was dirty from the soil on the edge of the track, but no rear left grip at all, and the car very quickly turned around on him.
There you go, and it just goes to show the margins you are dealing with in extremis with even these very capable little sports prototypes. Mechanical grip, of course, on the tyres would have been, I'm afraid, the thing that was lacking there.
Yeah.
Rather than the aerodynamic grip generated by, well, all the kit and caboodle you can see all over that car.
As I say, one thing I did notice yesterday was that 1 or 2 cars become very unstable when they're following another car, and that's what I was wondering when he was right behind Mike Guash at the time, but that incident certainly wasn't down to that, because we saw the clear puff of smoke. There's going to be a black and orange warning flag to car 30 to repair that loose bullet then, the cheese wedge, the legality panel on the rear left corner right behind the wheel, and that will have to come into pit lane then to get that sorted. And I think that's going to have to be before the pit stop as
It
well.
is.
It's
They're going to suffer with this one.
So they'll have to come in at least 25 minutes early to do this stop. First of all for the repair, and then for their mandatory stop.
But if you're right about the pit stop timing, they could take this as a time stop.
That's also true, yes. And we have seen that happen before.
They will need to fuel the car at their other stop, and it looks to me, is that car going to restart? It doesn't look from where it is as if it's going to.
James Dayson in the 14, and it is still being shown as stopped.
Yes, it is
still stopped.
It's going to restart.
Okay. Well, it's going to have to go the wrong way down the escape route, effectively, round the gravel trap, and then rejoin just before turn 9. GT3 leaders right together now.
Yeah.
Alessandro Baccani, Sergio Pianazzola, they went into the full course yellow nose to tail. There's literally half a car length between them now as they circulate at 80 kilometres per hour.
Yeah, it's almost peekaboo, isn't it, when you see the cars head on? There you go. There he is. There he is.
But the Ferrari is one of the only cars that makes the Porsche look like a high roof-lined machine when you see the two of them side by side. So svelte is the 488 silhouette, and the Mercedes in the Krypton Motorsport colours, which took pole position, remember. Marco Zanettini still at the wheel, that car circulating in 6th position, and also right on the tail of another Spirit of Race, Christoph Ulrich, just in front.
Full course yellow will be behind us in 30 seconds, and it's going to be trigger-happy television, isn't it, for this pair, to see who manages to get on the gas first. Sure, we're going to hear the
20 seconds to go back to green.
The dulcet tones, indeed, of our Portuguese race director, Alvaro Freitas.
Now, you've got Sergio Pianazzola, who won this championship last year, went to Le Mans for the first time in June, victorious at Paul Ricard. 8 seconds to go, and in fact, no, less than that. We're going now, and Pianazzola even had time to sneak up the inside to make the move. Baccani, they're totally side by side here, squirreling their way out of turn 10, but there is a change in the lead for GT3. Sergio Pianazzola makes it.
It was a mistake by Baccani, wasn't it? Got onto the power, but then didn't get onto the brakes quite quickly enough, went too deep into the corner, and Ferrari driver Pianazzola said, "I'll have some of that, thank you," or rather in an Italian accent. But also side by side, and contact there between the 51 car and the 35 Krypton AMG. Andrew Howard now on the scene. I'm sure.
So that was Ulrich versus the Krypton Motorsport number 35 then of Marco Zanettini, and as you say, Andrew Howard currently in 7th position in car 99, so this is 5th, 6th and 7th in GT3 totally together. A little bit ragged on the exit of the chicane that time around was Ulrich. That prizes the door open then for the Aston Martin, but Andrew Howard can't quite sneak through. Now we get to see whether the Ferrari or the Aston is faster down the straight. There's not a lot in it.
There's very little in it indeed. Is he going to look at the inside? He's going to have a crack. Has he got the brakes to do this?
Well, we saw very good
squirreling away, not quite there for Andrew Howard.
We saw very good braking at Monza, you may remember, into turn 1 when Andrew threw somebody the dummy and then darted up the inside at the very last minute as CD Sport now address their rear problem with the bullet there that is going to take some securing.
The problem is there's nothing to fasten it to by the look of it. It's the structure it's fastened to that's broken. So it's going to be, I'm afraid, cable ties and more.
Well, I was about to say, you can't cable tie to thin air very easily. So that's, well, a bit of scratching of heads going on down at CD Sport. That may not be a quick return to the race for number 30.
Pianazzola, by the way, has gone by Baccani and pulled away in the lead in GT3, 12th position overall. Calamia is closing on Baccani. Fabien Laverne back in 4th. This is the battle at the moment for 6th in GT3, with the car in 5th. Pulling away here again. Andrew Howard looking for the right line to try to mount that attack. Looking for space, looking to put the man in the Ferrari ahead under pressure. So Christoph Ulrich and Andrew Howard. Andrew with an important role in modern day motorsport. He's now one of the delegates for the FIA Driver Ranking Commission. So, you know, I'm sure he's got a very popular text message number.
Yeah, actually that position you want everyone shouting at you, don't you, from all directions? Because if they are, then you've probably got things just about right. They always say that about balance and performance as well. But tricky position to be in. Is he also the chairman of Wycombe Wanderers? He has been.
Is
in
he
the past.
still chairman of
I
Wycombe
thought he
Wanderers?
was, or one of the chair people anyway, at that football club. So a busy man, runs an ice cream business, big one as well at that too, and that's the reason why the Beach Dean branding is carried on that car and has been on many of his cars throughout the years. So into the second of our 4 half hours of this race now.
No longer chairman of Wycombe Wanderers.
Okay, thank you for that update. As out of the chicane goes the battle for 5th and 6th position. So this is Maurice Smith versus Nico Mella, who's in the gravel briefly. They're coming out of the final corner. All 4 wheels off the track and into the stones, and the dust created by that still clearing at turn 16. And that's put the 11 car quite a bit further back down the road. Eric Trier is further back down the road in 7th position. In the 6th place, Norma, effectively. We've only got one Ligier infiltrating the top 5 right now. That is Maurice Smith for Cool Racing, who goes a little bit wide, and that allows Nicolas Mellin to take the place. In fact, he's still wide, is Smith, trying to get the car back on the black stuff, has managed it just about now, as those cars put a lap on John Hartshorn in the number 50 Kessel Racing Ferrari. But after that slight mistake from Maurice Smith, he in turn is under pressure now from Eric Trier in the number 9 Graf Racing machine.
For 6th position overall, Maurice Smith, the leading car of the Ligier contingent. Top 5 now, Norma Affair after the problems for Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. after the retirement of the AT racing car. Still, by the way, the CD Sport car is on pit road, and still with repairs going on to the rear of the car with that legality panel, the bullet at the rear of the car. It's going on too long, I'm afraid, for any kind of competitive run from the 13. 2 laps down now.
A real shame for CD Sport's home race as well. So they may have to just decide we're not going to bother to continue anytime soon. So difficult, those things to repair. They either break in the right way so that they can be secured by a bit of tape or cable ties, or in the wrong way, as is the case for the number 30 on this occasion. Nose to tail then, no longer for the race lead as far as Alessandro Baccani is concerned, but he's in second and trying to drive the widest Porsche in the race here to be ahead of the Mercedes of Mauro Calamia. But we've got Ferrari, Porsche, Mercedes all represented in the top 3. Fabien Laverne has tried his best to get involved in a fight for a podium position, but every time he's either made a slight error or been forced out of it with some contact.
Pazzola, though, is just driving away nearly 6 seconds to the good last time they crossed the timing beam in the Ferrari. As I say that, they cross another one. No, he is still 6 seconds to the good. But if this pair, flash of the lights from the AMG, and of course Baccani will immediately pull over and let him go by. Or not.
Not a bit of it. Mercedes with a little look at the inside, not going to be close enough though as Calamia into turn 1 this time around. Might be able to shake the Porsche up though for an overtake, possibly into turn 3 or 4. 3 is the long right-hander, so 4 harder braking as you go into another right-hand hairpin. And then a few more technical corners as well, with a hard stop at turn 7 and another one at turn 10. Slightly different lines being utilised by Baccani compared to Calamia.
It's a defensive line from Baccani. He knows he's under pressure here. I think he believes that the AMG at the moment is the quicker car. So he's having to force the AMG to take the lines he doesn't want to take. An optimum exit from some of these technical corners here at the Circuit de Catalunya. The T8 car still in second position after leading the GT race for, well, the first half an hour or so. Now dropping further and further back from charging Sergio Piazzolla.
Late on the brakes is the Mercedes, but there wasn't quite the open door there after good driving from Baccani. Again, defending though, and this is not the quickest way around the Barcelona circuit, because he's having to put the car either very close to the apex on the run into it, or somewhere in the middle of the track, and driving far more in his mirrors than concentrating on the road in front. There's also an LMP3 car being bottled up behind.
It's Mark Crader looking for a way by, but clearly Mark is going to be taking instruction. Picani runs wide there, taking instruction that this pair really no holds barred. Really, we'll see what he can do on the straight here, but I don't think it's going to be away by the GT3 cars there. He's going to have to do it where he's got the performance advantage under braking and into the turns, and that's risky when you've got two cars battling this close.
Can't quite draw alongside in that LMP3 car. Mauro Calamia again trying to get through. He's raced for outfits like Swiss Team in the past, and now with Scuderia Villorba Corsa, they were almost two abreast going through turn 3. That would have been brave and highly skillful driving from the two of them. You need to have a bit of give and take if that's to be the case. Down into braking area at turn 4, and still Mark Crader taking the watching brief.
Round has gone the number 55 car. That is Claudio Sedanovic in the Spirit of Race 55. So it's not been the best of races so far for the two cars run as custom efforts by AF Corsa. Turn 1 for that incident.
Yeah, and that car in the lower order of the top 20, in fact I think it was 19th or 20th at the time of the spin. I couldn't see another car involved as the 55 came to a halt though, sideways on.
Yeah, I think it possibly was just himself on the braking. He got the car running again though, and yellow flags are withdrawn. All of this, by the way, the fun and games goes wide on the exit there. Is that the opportunity? It was. Picani, it didn't work that time. He made the same mistake as he did on the restarts. And what that's allowed behind them is for Mark Crader to be caught by the number 96 Cool Racing car. This for 12th position in LMP3.
Yeah, you're right, that could have been a carbon copy moment when Sergio Pianazzola took the race lead as they were coming out of the full course yellow. Andrew Howard again having a long look up the inside there of the Ferrari of Christoph Ulrich, who's ahead of him. The danger is Andrew Howard takes a bit longer to overtake Ulrich, then Marco Zanettini is disappearing into the distance.
Is that Cool Racing car rejoining the circuit? I think it was. That was the number 4 car having been off the circuit.
Yeah.
Sean Schaumann. Where is he?
Schaumann is currently running in 22nd position, and I think that position takes into account that very slight error. And Schaumann now looking to get back past Andrew Howard at the earliest opportunity. So I think Howard was taking the advantage of everyone bunching up behind that rejoining Cool Racing car. He tried to take the place on Christoph Ulrich, but that wasn't going to happen. Marco Zanettini for Krypton Motorsport still 5th in the black and green Mercedes.
But Andrew's dropped right back from the Ferrari. I wonder if he got caught up in that incident in some way, as he's about to actually be under pressure to be lapped by the 39 car of Adrian Schiller.
Yeah, it's about a second behind that Ferrari 51, isn't he?
He is.
And has now been overtaken by John Schaumann again, after Schaumann's slight error leading up into turn 9. An hour and 20 to go, there or thereabouts, and heading out of turn 4 and into the difficult turn 5, where you've got to get the car from one side of the track to the other, downhill through that left-hander, and the number 3 car trying to stick with race leader Adrian Schiller. Francois Kerman's gap now between him and the race leader is 1.8 seconds. You haven't got it down to 7/10, remember.
Fabian Laverne has now gone by the Porsche, so whatever's happened in the last couple of laps, Picani's pace has dropped off. Fabian Laverne in the number 71 Luzic Racing car, now 3rd in GT3.
Might be tyre related from the Italian then driving the German car. If he's been off, well, we know he's been off the racing line a few times, making errors into turn 10. That's allowed at least 2 cars to get by. I wonder whether that's how Fabian Laverne got in front as well of the 88 car. So Laverne now running in 3rd position. That's a place that he's been trying to get in this race since the start, to be honest. He had a few bites of the cherry earlier on and made some uncharacteristic errors. The car in front of him this time goes off the road. That is Philippe Chimodomo, also for Cool Racing.
Picani's beginning to struggle. It was a slower lap from him. It was actually pace of the relative lack of pace of the Porsche that allowed Fabian Laverne to catch and pass him. 2.5 seconds slower last time around, and it certainly seems to be struggling for grip now. The 88. There we go. 4 cars involved here. That's the 30 coming back out, and the United car goes round. That's 23. The 23. That is Rob Hodes.
That's the second time Rod Hodes has been off there, and nearly took Mike Gwash with him the first time, you may remember. Rattles over the sausage curb. The underframe of these cars really don't like that when you smack the curb in an effort to rejoin quickly.
That will have been a position lost. That was the 30 car on the way out of the pits after lengthy repairs. 7 minutes, by the way, in the pits for the 30 car. 30 car goes by the back marking GT3, almost run up the back, didn't he? And then got onto the curb on the inside, pitched him across the track, lost grip, turned around.
And the other car there at the
That
time was the 98 car, wasn't
which
it?
has taken the position.
Yeah.
So that's a change in position for 9th overall. Eric de Donker going by Rod Hodes rather, who's lost 2 positions because another one gone to teammate Jim Maguire in the 22 car. It's good run here from
and the problem for Eric de Donker is that now he's got in front of all that little lot. He's got 20 seconds now before he finds another car, who is Mike Gwash, who's pushing on just 3 seconds off the back of Eric Trier, and that's the battle then for 7th and 8th positions.
We didn't see the incident, by the way, that led to the Cool Racing car going off track, and dear me, that's the race leader and the 51 car side by side. Has that been a change in lead there? Because it would have come very, very close.
Not quite.
I wonder, because we've got a message on the screens, the team manager for the car 88 to go to race control. Was that an incident we didn't see between the 88 car, which we've seen has lost a bit of pace, and the Cool Racing car?
Yeah, that's possible.
Which certainly, that incident, or whatever happened there, stretched out that group fairly considerably.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And of course, the clerk of the course, Eduardo Freitas, together with his team, can make use of an awful lot more camera angles than we can. Alessandro Pierguidi taking a watching brief as well. Not part of this race, but he will be in action later on today in the European Le Mans Series. But yes, my point about sort of lots of CCTV cameras here, there and everywhere around this track, then that incident will have been recorded in some way and can be watched back again to apportion blame if necessary.
The European Le Mans Series package with the Michelin Le Mans Cup means that, of course, we've got to dig deep into the warehouse full of Italian racing drivers they keep.
So the gap's definitely come down for the race lead. That thanks to some contact between the 39 of Adrian Schiller and which Ferrari do we think it was? Christopher Wood?
Yes.
So it was the now 7th placed GT3 winner and the overall race leader. Side-by-side contact into turn 5 and another off-track moment. Rod Hodes is in the gravel trap, and whereabouts is that on the circuit? It could be turn 3 actually. It is turn 3, so the right and left at the early part of the lap, and again being caught on the marbles. No grip out there on the high line at turn 3, and it skates off into the kitty litter.
Yeah, trouble too while we've been watching that incident replayed, and it won't be in Rod Hodes' Christmas tape, I'm sure of that. But for the number 5 DCAR engineering car, and Louise Beckett down in pit lane telling us that was a front left puncture for the number 5 DKR car. That's the green car. Double yellow at turn 3 for recovery of that car, and if we're going to go down the same road as we have before, it might well be a full course yellow for recovery here.
Yeah, particularly if a 4x4 type vehicle has to go into the gravel and there are marshals in a vulnerable position as well, then that tends to be the decision that is made. We'll wait and see. It's quite a way off the circuit, but the danger is somebody else loses it at turn 3, and number 23 directly in the firing line. So we'll wait and see. Hopefully the car can be put back into the race though, although Rod Hodes, oh dear, is clambering out of the car, and that really does suggest that it's retirement now for car 23.
Has he just had enough here? That's the 3rd spin he's had, I'm afraid.
So it's been an eventful race, hasn't it, for Rod? And other team members in United Autosport sometimes involved through no sort of control of their own.
What to say though, Jim Maguire is having, I think, the best run I've seen him have. He's up into 9th position, the number 22 car. That was Rod Hodes trying to get around the outside. Yeah, Balaclava's off for the 23 crew. I think they know that one's done.
And that will mean, sadly, no drive for Garrett Grist, his co-driver. But yes, 96 is off. This is Philippe Cimadomo, who's already run wide at the very least, and the 96 car sideways on the exit of the chicane, or missed the first bit of the chicane completely, Then straight line the next bit, no grip there. What about Bacarni? He was nearly involved in the Porsche.
Yeah.
It's all action, this, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely.
For the wrong reasons mainly, but
9,
nevertheless.
8,
Full course yellow
7,
coming.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow, full course yellow.
And that is to recover Rod Hode's car. The 96 actually recovered itself because finer forward gear and rejoin, and no harm, no foul, as it were, for the cool racing machine of Cimadomo. So we should see Romain Carton, his teammate. But our second full course yellow in the space of just 50 minutes then.
Now, I wonder whether or not there was another contributing factor, or whether or not there's damage he knows he's got. What if something like a drive shaft's gone on that car?
It's possible, yeah.
It's an
true.
odd, you know, it may be that it's just abandonné, but it's an odd thing for a driver just to walk away.
Yeah.
So we get close to the point where driver changes are going to happen here.
I mean, the danger is, I suppose, the tyres will be completely shot on that car. So first trip to the pit lane, maybe then to check the car over to get rid of all the gravel.
Going to be back in 5 minutes' time.
Yeah, true. And you know, is it just too much work, and you're going to come home with a result well outside the top 20? But I feel for Garrett Grist, because looking forward to a stint from the young Canadian driver for number 23. But Garrett, he's still in the ELMS entry, is he not?
He is in the ELMS entry.
Yeah. So there's a race for Garrett Grist later on today. But the 23 car is going to have to be recovered to a safe place before we can go racing again. Now, of course, 4 minutes to go potentially until the pit lane opens.
Indeed, and it's a matter of we're going to get to that stage while we're still under full course yellow, and I think we might well. It's going to be quite tight, isn't it?
Yes, and then of course it's down to where your car is in relation to the pit lane around the track, because some cars might be able to do it under the full course caution, others might not. They might run out of time, because remember, if you're just starting a lap now and you want to pit, you've got to go around 4.6 kilometres at just 80 k's an hour. So this could be mightily frustrating for those that want to pit. It's also, because cars are circulating at about a third of race pace, your opportunities to pit are going to be far fewer, aren't they? You might only get 2 stabs at this.
Absolutely. Up already on the lifting bar is the Ligier, number 23, which looks like a retirement. Saw Rod Hode's walk away. We saw the team. Body language tell the story, really. The other one I'm looking for here at the restart, by the way, is a battle for 9th position. That's between Jim Maguire and the GT leader, who is right on his rear wing.
Right, race leader onto another lap, and now 3 minutes to go. So I think we're going to get a gaggle of cars in before the race leader. The danger is the full course caution clears before number 39, Adrian Schiller, gets a chance to get into the pit. Likewise for Francois Kerman.
It's going to be tight.
Going to be very interesting.
It's going to be tight even with this lap.
Yes, true. And that car isn't going to take too long to recover, because all the marshals associated with the Royal Automobile Club Catalunya are well versed in recovering vehicles. They had some testing during the free practice sessions about this full course yellow scenario as well. Now utilised, of course, in the Formula 1 World Championship too, with virtual safety cars, but full course yellow has come in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. And it's very good, because it means that if you've spent the whole of the race building up a tidy lead, then it should be retained after the caution. That's not the case, though, for Adrian Schiller and Francois Kerman. They are separated by just a couple of car lengths, even under full course yellow.
Contact between cars 51 and 39. That was the race leader. We saw that one under investigation. Some significant differences, by the way, again, between some of these cars on the full course yellow speed limiter.
Yeah, I noticed that as far as the GT3 leaders were concerned at the time, because it looked like Pianazzoli was catching the Porsche that was leading, if you remember, number 88. And
well, to give you
one of them is going to be correct, you would hope.
The third place car, Tony Wells, 73.9 seconds for the first sector under full course yellow. The second place car, a second and a half quicker.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
that's
the difference in real terms is less than that when we get up to full racing speed, but it's a significant chunk nonetheless.
that assumes they're all taking the same line.
Indeed.
Of course.
Good point.
But yeah, I have noticed just through the years of watching trackside, you actually see cars catching ones in front, even though they're all supposed to be doing 80 Ks. Now you'd hope the car behind is doing 80 Ks and the one in front's doing slightly slower.
Well,
but
when we came into the full course yellow, I'm pretty certain there was a 1.4 second gap between. Oh, he runs off the track.
He has got back on again though, but that will alter the gap.
That was odd.
See what I mean? They've all got to take the same line, Graham, and stick to the track ideally.
But maybe that's why it came down from 1.4 seconds. But as it came into the full course yellow, it's around 1.4 seconds. Watch this again. So just a moment's
thinking, perhaps, Adrian Schiller, that he could get through that corner, turn 10, at 80 Ks or anywhere close to it. Surely these guys are going to come in now. They're not.
They're not, because it's 42 seconds shy of the pit stop time.
You're right. I'm looking at the
actual time. That was what I was thinking earlier. Yes. They're going to come round and they will have to go round again.
Yeah, because it's 1:55 local time, and I was going by that rather than actually the time we started the race, which was a little bit later because of the extra formation lap shouldn't have altered that. Anyway,
but we're going to be
20 seconds to go.
Into that any second now.
This is going to be tough for the race leaders here, because there is potential for us to go back to green before the leaders have had a chance to quit.
We're going to do exactly that.
Here we go then. So those further down the order will get a pit stop under full course yellow. Well, they won't actually.
Tony Wells has carried on round.
Yeah.
Tony Wells has carried on round.
Well, the fact that we're going back to green probably won't affect it as much as I feared, because we're not going to get any stoppers, I don't think, during the full course yellow. We're back to green. What we are going to have is a race to pit road now, whether these guys decide to pit on this lap or not. Adrian Schiller versus Francois Kerman, but Tony Wells has come in from third position.
He did pit.
Now, the 39 car slotting at the inside of the Kia Racing number 43. That's not a change for position. Kerman wants to get by that car as quickly as possible because they are lapping the number 43 Ligier from the Danish squad, and Kerman can get by with not too much time lost out. A strange moment a lap ago for Adrian Schiller as he ran off the road whilst on the speed limiter of 80 Ks, but plenty of cars now deciding to come down pit lane, including Tony Wells. Nico Mallat for Racing Experience from 5th position is in. Also Maurice Smith for Cool Racing, Mike Gwash for United, and Eric de Donker for Motorsport 98.
It's going to be a drive-through penalty for a jump start for car 88. That was, of course, the early race leader in GT, the EB Motors Porsche. Amongst the pit stoppers already in GT are the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 8th placed cars. That's the Krypton AMG, the 35 car, the 99 Beechdene AMR Aston Martin, the 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari, and the 54 SPS AMG. Gaggle further cars further down the order coming in. 4 car, another spin for the 4 car, and rejoins, almost collected by one of the Graf cars.
Yes, was that the race leader that nearly got wiped out?
And it's the race leader who's going to get a drive-through as well after this stop.
Oh,
so
wow.
In comes the 39 and the 3 nose to tail, but after this pit stop is done, the 39 car is going to get another drive-through. Is going to get a drive-through for causing that collision with the 51 car.
Blimey, so that all of a sudden swings the pendulum firmly towards Francois Kerman and Laurence Heur. It'll be Heur to start, or rather take that car over from Frenchman Francois Kerman and DKR Engineering, and when all this unwinds, it's likely that the number 3 car will be out front, and by a decent margin, because the next car back, Eric Trouillet in the number 9 car, that car hasn't yet pitted. This is the moment.
And that was clearly 39 car nowhere near the line it really should have been with the car alongside, and a clear sight of the 51 as well. It was simply a mistake.
It only made the corner because it whacked into the side of the Ferrari, and that kept it on track and forced the 51 of Christoph Ulrich out into the gravel.
Trouble as well, further trouble for the number 14 RLRM Sport car. Car 14 reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane.
And there's some debris on the track at turn 3, so much here to digest and for drivers to be aware of as they take charge of their cars for their stint then in this race. We've got mostly bronze drivers handing over to either silvers or golds, and therefore the lap time should start to tumble as well.
moment, we have the leading GT3 car, the Scuderia Villorba Corsa car, leads the race overall as we complete lap 28, with the Luzic Racing car 6 seconds behind. But both those cars owe us a pit stop, as does the first of the LMP3 cars that's yet to stop. It's a 96 Cool Racing car. Out comes the number 8, which will be in the pound seats once this all plays out in GT3.
So remember, 39 in for a stop now. When it does a drive-through, it has to come in as a completely separate stop. The team cannot do any work on the car whilst it's taking the penalty. So 39 will rejoin in effectively, in virtually the race lead from the number 3 machine, but it's almost like the DKR engineering guys could take their time with that stop, knowing that the race leader is going to have to come in for a drive-through.
Yeah, through the pits there was certainly advantage gained there by the Graf car, and it was 3 seconds quicker in pit lane, but that is going to pale into insignificance with the penalty taking the car having to come down pit lane at much reduced speed. And yes, well, virtually, if not actually, DKR are going to take the lead on her from Nico Schatz pretty soon.
Marcello Marattiotto handing over to Italian teammate Marco Cencetti, so that's bronze rated to silver. And is that car spinning behind the Mercedes there? No, it's all right, it's still on track, just an optical illusion there. CD Sport, the repaired CD Sport car, sadly for that machine, stone last now, but Kyle Bol-Besosson takes that car over there. And we have had 2 retirements so far, the 1980 racing machine of Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. and Rob Hodes calling it a day after he fell off into the turn 3 gravel trap.
So still, the leader of the race overall is the second car here. It's the gold and black Scuderia Villorba Corsa Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. That car still loses its pit stop. It's Racing Ferrari second. Then we get to the first of the pit stoppers, the 39 Graf car, but that car roses a pit stop of a different sort. That will be the run down pit lane for causing a collision. It's earlier than the DKR engineering car, which dropped some way back, 6 seconds back on the road. So it's going to be Nico Schatz trying to do what he can to reduce the damage that's going to come their way with the run down pit lane. We're into the second half of the race now.
And Wayne Boyd starting to light at the timing screens in the number 24 United Autosports Ligier, the car that was started by Mike Gwash and has now been taken over then by the 28-year-old Ulsterman. I can see why the GT3 leaders are deciding to stay out just that little bit longer. It is so busy in pit lane, and I noticed some cars parked nose to tail with literally, 4 inches between them. Actually space for mechanics to get in there somehow between the 2 cars to clear any debris out from grills of GT3 cars, but that's not a nice working environment if your neighbours are pitting at the same time as your car.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race goes to Wayne Boyd at 1:44.164. He's working on looking to track down the car ahead of him in 6th position. He's right there with him as well. Gary Hauser, there's just 1/4 of a second between them. Also flying at the moment, Matt Bell in a second of the second remaining United Autosports car. He's putting in quick times at the moment in 11th. In comes the race leader, the number 7 car. We've just got the top 2 cars, both GT cars, pitting now. That will be completion of the pit stop cycle, which will put Nico Schatz, for the moment at least, back into the lead in the 39 car. But he does need to visit pit lane.
Yep, so Mauro Calamia coming in the Scuderia Villorba Corsa car to hand over to Roberto Pampanini. It'll be Fabian Laverne to hand to Mikkel Mack. But before we continue, let's hear from Adrian Schiller now, who's in the pits with Lou.
Adrian Schiller is with the team and he's found out about the drive-through. We believe it's from the 51 contact. What happened there?
Yeah, I don't understand why, because he don't respect the blue flag. I lead the race. But it's damage to finish the race, my stint with that. I don't know what to say more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So a rather disgruntled Adrian Schiller there, I think it's fair to say. Having watched that incident several times now, I think he's banged to rights, unfortunately.
I'm afraid I respectfully disagree.
Yes.
I'm no racing driver, but I know a move when I see one, and that was the wrong one.
He came into turn 5 that hot,
Yeah.
he was never going to turn left
No.
unless he smacked into the side of another car, and that's precisely what happened. And like a pinball, Christoph Ulrich goes skating off and he's trying to mind his own business. Now, okay, if there'd been several blue flags being waved in the direction of the 51 Ferrari and he wasn't obeying those, then fair enough, but that's not how you don't need to retaliate on the track. Fight it afterwards.
Indeed you don't. So where we are at the moment, Nico Schatz leads the race, was trying to get away there, put in the fastest lap of the race of 1:43.069. That was marginally bettered by the chasing car in the hands now of Lance Hur. The gap is 5.4 seconds, but that chase not being helped for the Graf car by a car directly in front. We'll see just when we're going to see the Graf car down pit lane. Colin Noble 10 seconds back now. It's a 1:42.1 this time from Lawrence Hur. He's fully lit now in pursuit, knowing full well he's going to take the lead there unless mistakes happen. So it's 3 purple sectors from the chasing number 3 car. So it's Nico Schatz, Lawrence Hur, Colin Noble, Gary Hauser is 4th in the racing.
Just ran wide did Hauser, and I reckon Wayne Boyd managed to squeeze ahead in the 24. So deep into the braking area at turn 10, Hauser totally off the track, and Wayne Boyd the other side of the Ferrari, which was sandwiched between the two of them. But Wayne Boyd, ever the opportunist, now up to 4th position.
And leading Ligier indeed, and looking better and better for United Autosports. Racing Experience dropped back to 5th. Cool Racing with Victor Bludjan in 6th now. Then the second Graf car, the number 9 car, running strongly in 7th. Dino Lenardi, Matt Bell and Giacomo Piccini in the GT3 leading car. Then a brake car complete the top 10 with 55 minutes remaining and the pit stop window closing.
Clattering the curb there was the number 3 of Laurence Hur, trying to hunt down Nicolas Schatz. They don't need to get drawn into this, DKR Engineering, because remember, that car up ahead will magically disappear when it has to take a drive-through penalty. Speaking of which, now car 14 is going to have to do a drive-through because it was speeding in the pit lane during its regular stop. Car 14.
That's Christian Olsen is aboard that
it's
car.
It's the RLR Sport car.
Just made up a couple of places since that pit stop, knowing full well I think that was coming. Whether or not that was on the way in from James Dayson or on the way out from Christian Olsen, it remains to be seen. Doesn't really matter in terms of the final results. It's going to be a long afternoon for young Christian Olsen.
It's always horrible though when you're the new driver getting in, and if you weren't guilty of the breach of the regulation, but you've still got to come in to serve the penalty. It is a true team sport, remember, endurance racing, and you have to sometimes cop for an incident that your fellow driver has done, and that's exactly what Christian will need to do fairly early on in his stint.
The other man that's got the message, by the way, about that pit stop, that drive-through penalty that's coming the way of the 39 car is Colin Noble. He is pushing hard into the 42s now. He's 14 seconds back to the leader and closing, knowing that the lead car is going to have to come down pit lane.
GT3 still being led by Giacomo Piccini, who has been with Sergio Pianazzola for, well, a long time in the Kessel Racing squad. I was, for some reason, earlier on in the day getting Giacomo mixed up with Andrea, but it's Giacomo and Sergio that won the championship last year, and the two of them have been teammates all year long in 19 as well. Deliberately going a little bit wide there with Giacomo Piccini, in fact over the curbs to ensure there wasn't any contact between he and the 39 car of Nicolas Schatz. Again, that's heads-up driving, isn't it, from these pros, to think, I don't want to be taken out by an LMP3 going a little too hot into the slow-speed corners.
Alex Mortimer right in his wheel tracks now. That's a battle between the GT leader and Alex Mortimer in the Grain Market car for 10th overall. Then we've got the two DKR cars. In fact, the first of those, that is for position. So Alex Mortimer being tracked by Gianchetti for 10th in class.
So down towards the first corner go a gaggle of LMP3s, the Grain Market Racing machine ahead, but it's the 3 car that should, remember, take the race lead. What Nicolas Schatz is trying to do is open up a big enough gap at the head of the order so that the drive-through won't affect the standings, but he's going to have to go some, i.e. probably into part of tomorrow, to build up a lead.
He's going to have to take that drive-through very soon.
Yeah, true, as well. Yeah, I mean, in some championships, you get 3 laps.
Some you get 3, some you get 5. I think it needs to be now.
And if he doesn't take it...
He's not getting away. If anything, he's losing time to the second place car at the moment.
If he doesn't take it, that's often converted into a time penalty at the end of the race, and probably then doubled or something, because you didn't take it in race when you were asked to. So yeah, time is of the essence here for Graf. They're putting off the inevitable, looking to try and build this lead as much as possible. But Laurence Roux now pursued by the team car, but that's not for position because Marco Cencetti a lap down compared to the orange and black DKR machine.
But he is tracking the soon-to-be overall leader and doing the best he can to get pace into this in his pursuit of the car that's ahead of the number 3 car. That is Alex Morton in the grain markets, number 20. Crader, good run in that car.
Drive-through penalty from pit in to pit out at the very least takes cars 22 seconds, it looks like, because the 88 Porsche did it in that time, and also Christian Olsen's just done a drive-through. Of course, you can't say it's going to delay you by 22 seconds because you're moving at the same... You are still moving down the pit lane and gaining ground.
It's going to be something like 12 to 14 seconds lost on track, and that is broadly the gap from first to third.
Yeah,
it's going to put Colin Noble in very close contention with what will be at best the new second place car, Nico Schatz in the 39, when that penalty is done.
The other thing, of course, is that you've got to actually get into the pit lane before you then go down to 60 k's to trundle through it and come out again as well. That all adds to the delay. But what Nicolas Schatz is trying to do is build up as big a lead as possible before he serves the penalty. 50 minutes to go now, and that gap's up to 4.1 seconds. So Schatz on a bit of a tear here to try and wedge that gap wider and wider between his car and Laurence Roux. You're right about Colin Noble gaining time all the time on Laurence Roux. And 10 seconds now the margin, although Roux, almost in response there, sets the best middle sector of anybody so far in this race.
Roux, when he's getting clear air, is capable of very good speed indeed. Noble putting in quick and consistent laps in his pursuit of this. He's just looking to put himself in contention for the best podium position he can manage. 14 seconds away from the current leader, 10.3 seconds back from the current second place car. That is a quicker lap time this time through from Nico Schatz. When is he going to come down pit lane though?
Laurence, a real talent from Germany, still just 21 years old, having come out of Formula Renault racing to race in the Le Mans Cup for the first time last year with CD Sports, and now with DKR Engineering doing some supercar challenge racing in LMP3s as well in 2019. So a talent for the future certainly, and still very early on in his motor racing career. Not actually being distracted too much by Nicolas Schatz. The danger is you push too hard to wheel in the 39 car and have an incident yourself. Meanwhile, neck and neck between a Graf car and a Cool Racing machine. It is the number 9 Graf car of Adrien Trouillet.
This is a battle for 6th position between the 3, is it? No, between 7th position between the 9 and the 98.
Yeah.
It's the other Cool Racing car involved there. Further back in the order, by the way, we've got some cracking stuff going on between Cencetti, who's managed to get by Alex Mortimer, with a great battle between several of the GT cars for second position overall. They're catching Pampanini for second. It's Michael Mack, Ricardo Pera, Ross Gunn, all catching.
Nico Ronde, even though he's a lap down, just doing these 2 cars around the outside on the exit of turn 10. So John Schaumann started the number 4 car. Nico Ronde now doing the second stint and has just got himself the right side now of those battling 2, as you say. Blodjian and Dino Lunardi scrapping over 6th and 7th, but unlapping himself was the number 4 car down in 22nd position.
So 47 minutes remain of this 2-hour race. Plenty still to play for here. car 39, violation of Article 12.1. That will be not taking the penalty that he's now taking for too long. So I'm afraid they tried the patience of the stewards, or rather the race director, just a little too much. He's emerging in third position.
And shakes of the head now down at Graf, I think realising that that one penalty is now going to spawn another one effectively, because they took too long to do the drive-through.
I'm sorry, just not smart.
No.
There was not enough to be gained by pushing that envelope. Either that or someone was having a shouty meeting in race control, but either way, the rules, you take the penalty.
Yeah, there is an unwritten rule in motorsport from a team manager's point of view, is that you argue to try and make sure that the regulation wasn't broken, and then you can deal with the consequences afterwards. But once you've taken the penalty, there's no going back from that, so you try and prevent it from even being taken in the first place. But they've now breached Article 12.1, which I'm sure is taking a drive-through at the right time, and they went beyond the 5 laps, I would suggest, or even more than that it might be in ACO rules racing. But it might be another drive-through now.
It was at least 10 minutes.
Yeah.
At least 10 minutes.
I mean, it's not dictated by the clock, I don't think. It tends to be numbers of laps.
My point being 10 minutes is more than 5 laps.
5 laps, yeah. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
And often these are then incremental penalties, i.e. the next one could be worse. So it might be a stop-go next time around for car 39. And all of a sudden, a very, very good race starts to tumble away from you.
Well, what does that leave us with 45 minutes remaining? It leaves us with DKR Engineering's number 3 car, Valenteur, is now 12.3 seconds clear of Colin Noble, who's the new second place car. The Graf Racing car number 39 of Nico Schatz has emerged in third place, 18 seconds clear of Wayne Boyd, as we get involved with some nips, tucks and maybes from several of the GT3 cars.
That was Mikkel Mack on Roberto Pampanini for second in class.
That was the battle we were talking about just a little while ago.
Great overtake there,
closing as well.
Yeah.
And Ross Gunn is 10 seconds back from this, but lapping quicker than the cars ahead of him. So if this goes to the current form book, Ross Gunn is going to be in amongst this. Up the inside goes Pera, as the AMG man rather bails out of that battle. Let's let those guys have a crack at it.
So Mikkel Mack, the 26-year-old from Denmark, up to second in class now for Lucid Racing after a great opening stint from Fabien Leverne. And now Mack's going to have to try and reel in Giacomo Bacchini. I think that's a lost cause, though, considering there's 13 seconds separating a spin for Nico Ronde. So having heaped praise on his shoulders for those 2 overtakes, or sort of on-lappery moments earlier on, that was a rather erroneous exit out of turn 15, the chicane, to loop the car and now have to rejoin.
This is Ross Gunn in the number 99 car, ahead of Mekla aboard the 54 SPS AMG. This pair working on about a 10-second gap to the battle ahead of them for 4th position. So yeah, Nico Ronde taking just a few too many liberties, wasn't he, with the mechanical grip available there this time.
Fun to watch up until that point, though. Lucid Racing versus Ebby Motors, and remember it's Ricardo Pera now at the wheel of number 88. I reckon this is Pera's first outing in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and a regular with the Italian outfit in the ELMS, and Ricardo Pera this year racing with Christian Reed's Proton team as well. But good that relationships are still strong with Ebby Motors, knows his Porsches inside and out, does Ricardo Pera, and on qualifying duty earlier on in the day for the European Le Mans Series.
Watching as we watch this pair of GTs scrapping away at the relative lap times for the leaders. Pretty close. It's a 1 second stop and go penalty for car 9 for not respecting the pit stop minimum rule. So that's the second of the Graf cars.
Yeah, the Trouillet's father and son, isn't it?
Timed with 2:01. So was that 122 seconds this weekend? Must be. It's 1 second. That's what it is. It's a stop for the difference. So you lose your second plus you run down pit lane. As we've got side by side here, Pera and Mack.
Yes, because no word so far on the 24 car, Wayne Boyd, which did do a 2 minutes and 2 second stop, so that looks to be absolutely fine. But if you did a 2:01, then a penalty is going to come your way. And everybody else looks to be fine. A quick glance down the right-hand column as the Ferrari's now taking the inside defensive line into turn 10. Porsche outside 2 inside. That could be a great overtake from Ricardo Berra.
Neatly done. Neatly done. Mikkel Mack, by the way, previous LMS GT winner, champion some years ago with Formula Racing, and is reigning champion in the International GT Open Series with this team. But he done him like a kipper there.
He did, yeah. Well, you get them offline, you see, defensive on the way in. If you take the wide line on the way in as well, then you can take the tighter line on the way out. There's more grip, I would suggest, on the inside of the exit of the corner. And he had a retraction required then from the 4-litre flat 6. Sits at the back of that Porsche GT3 is still a traditional engine arrangement, by the way, i.e. rearward of the rear axle in these Porsches. Aston Martin, front engined, charging its way then towards the Mercedes that currently occupies 4th position. So Pampanini 4th, Ross Gunn, who's taken over from Andrew Howard, is 5th.
And looking set fair to get that position. Goes up the inside. Has he got the traction to do that? I think he has. He takes that slot, I think. And does.
With no less than 3 LMP3 snapping at their heels as that overtake was done. Yannick Mettler's also in the queue, by the way, isn't he?
He's right there. He's still got the traffic to deal with before he can get onto terms with the other AMG in this battle. But Ross Gunn is where is he catching?
Well, Mikkel Mack will be the next man on his list. He's up to 4th position.
He's
in
taking
class.
time out of that pair.
Yeah.
He'll lost a little in getting by there, but Ross Gunn's pace relative to the cars ahead of him in class is pretty good. There's 40 minutes still to go. This is the Aston Martin is a car that looks after its tyres. Could be a great result here on the cards for the Beach Dean AMR team.
The other thing we should be concentrating on is those 2 LMP3s, because in car 11 it is now Gary Hauser ahead of Victor Bergeron, who runs for Cool Racing, and they are dicing for 5th and 6th places in LMP3. So you've got 5th and 6th in the P3 category, along with 4th, 5th and 6th places in GT3, all occupying the same bit of track. 40 minutes to go, and the number 3 DKR Engineering car of Laurence Heur now hurling his car through turn 9. Slower car to deal with in a moment or two, but because of that drive-through penalty for car 39, there's now nobody to be immediately concerned about. However, Laurence Heur's team, I'm sure, will be informing him all the time of where Colin Noble is. Last time around was able to lap just a smidge quicker, but it's only 0.3 of a second.
The last couple of laps he's taken just tiny margins out of him. It was a couple of tenths the previous lap, 3/10 the lap they've just completed. So Colin is lapping consistently more quickly, but not quickly enough to put immediate pressure on. It is 10.9 seconds now, the gap. That's the one to look for in the remaining 38 minutes of this race. Meantime, Nico Schatz appears to have been broken by that. Down pit lane, and that's not the stop we're expecting to see. This is the 22 car, Matt Bell. What's the problem there for United Autosports car? We said that this car having the best run for a while with Jim McGuire and Matt Bell on pit lane. Looks like that might have been a tyre problem. Front right. That's Puncher.
Well, it is being sent back out again, so not a terminal issue. However, that's really,
the top 10.
Yeah, it's put them a long way back, hasn't it? Car 22. And behind now, Alex Mortimer, who's going strong in the number 20 Grain Market Racing Norma.
Big lock up there from the 39 car. I was about to say, 39 car had made its way by the big lock up here. Bang. Face for that. It's the 5 car. It's the
Marco Cencetti, not actually in the mix for the sharp end.
I do wonder, I mean, just seeing the way that those cars were in relation to each other, whether or not that may be part of the reason why the 39 haven't been catching on the leaders. Has he been working to get by the 5? Is the 5 actually playing a little bit of rear gunner here?
The way that Cenchetti's now cleared off, that's the 9 car rather than
apologies.
the 39. So was it the 9 car locking up as well, therefore?
It was the 9 car locking up.
Adrian Trier locking up and allowing Cenchetti through. That makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? So that's a change of position, in fact, with 5 now getting ahead.
Because that was the 9 car coming out of the pits after taking that stop and hold.
Which was the penalty
Indeed.
For... was that related to
1 second
for being too short on the pit stop. We did explain it all to you, just don't expect us to remember it all at the end.
Memories like goldfishes.
Well, you can't afford to bank much of this because there's so much happening, frankly.
Well, the thing is, we know, don't we, from what's the opposite of a bitter experience? Very sweet experience with the Michelin Le Mans Cup. We've got to save ourselves for the last 20 minutes because that's the point at which a meteorite's going to strike.
We're in reserve mode right now, aren't we? We're going to just tick over. And then, I was about to say, our voices will go 2 octaves higher. Very nearly did when the Motorsport 98 car didn't make turn 10, and that allowed Ross Gunn to slot through. Now, that's not a place for position because they're in different classes, remember. But what it does do is put a bit of traffic now between Ross and the pursuing Yannick Mettler at Mercedes.
Who has dealt with that traffic and dealt with it well. He's not lost any time. In fact, I think he's gained time to Ross Gunn at this phase of the race. That might have been to do with the close contention for the Motorsport 98 car. And Lou Beckett from the pit lane telling us the 22 is back in. So a problem again for the 22 car. Maybe that is a cut tyre, is that debris? What is that causing? But either way, it's ruining the day for Jim Maguire and Matt Bell.
Maybe, well, depending on whether the car's had any contact, it might be just a slight bit of geometry that is out. And it could be, of course. I mean, sometimes a car feels like it's got a puncture. They change all the tyres, and you still feel like you've got a puncture because it's not actually that. It's something else entirely unaffected. There's going to be something else going the way of the 39 car, as suspected, we're afraid to say, not respecting the drive-through penalty. Well, 39 did come in to serve it eventually, but it's going to be another drive-through for Nicolas Schatz.
That's going to drop that car to within the clutches of Wayne Boyd. And the United Autosports 24 running 4th fastest, quickest at the moment, or best place at the moment of the Ligiers. He's some 23 seconds back. It's not quite, I think, going to cede the position to Wayne, but it's not going to be that far away either.
That's a real shame, but rules is rules, and if you're told to come in for a drive-through penalty, you cannot afford to delay that. And not sure whether that was a miscommunication, as Graham suggests, or tactics, but it hasn't worked, far from it. And the 39 car that could have been a race winner today is now going to tumble further and further down the top 10. Laurence Hoare, on the other hand, yes, okay, being caught here and there by Colin Noble. A very good lap last time around by the young Scot. Got the gap down to 9.8 seconds now.
Yep, half a second quicker last time.
34 minutes to go, so there is opportunity potentially. What it is going to require, though, is sort of relentless consistency now from Colin Noble all the way to the flag.
He's capable of that. We've seen that before from Colin, repeatedly in fact from Colin. Remember the last season, his trademark was actually biting into what seemed unfeasible leads ahead and doing so with, well, just a dogged approach to it. That's what it needs right now. It needs a half a second here, 4/10 there, and continue and continue and continue. What we've not yet seen is what Laurence Hoare has still got in the locker. 1:44.5 last time around for Laurence Hoare. He has responded. What is Colin Noble going to respond with? He's half a second closer again. Can he carry this one up? Because if he can, we're going to get a battle for the lead.
Laurence Hoare is caught in traffic now and needed to be careful not to run to the back of one of the Spirit of Race Ferraris a moment or two ago. He's now on the tail of the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes. Here comes Nicolas Schatz for Graf then, a second drive-through penalty of the day. And hearing about 2 separate punctures there for the 22. The aero paint car came in, you'll remember, first of all to get one tyre changed, and then there was another tyre that went. How close is this going to be for Nicolas Schatz, who absolutely floors the throttle coming out of the pit lane. He's got the United Autosports Ligier to try and beat. This is the battle for third and fourth positions. Careful not to cross the white line on the exit. Schatz can just about hang on to it, but of course he's got a fired up Wayne Boyd now right behind him, who's not fresh from the pit lane. The tyres for Schatz will have cooled very slightly as he trundled down the pit lane, and I think that place is going to go for a Burton here, Graham.
It is very much a fired up Wayne Boyd. Goes up the inside. He's been very stoic there. Goes for it. He's going to take that line. I think we'll pull away. Wayne Boyd takes that position.
Here comes Schatz to try and repay the favour. Big lock-up from Boyd, but he manages to
keeps his line, and he's got the position back. That is third position for United Autosports. Remember, we said earlier, this evening's ELMS race will be their 300th race in competition. This, their 299th, and Wayne Boyd is looking to light a candle on the cake with a podium position for the 24 car. Cracking drive from him so far.
Despite being desperately late on the brakes, I was impressed that he kept at least two wheels the right side of the white line, so no issues. Track limits lines there on the exit of turn 5 and keeps the position, but it's going to take a bit more to fully shake Nicolas Schatz, who must be well and truly fired up now inside that number 39 car, having taken 2 extra visits to the pit lane.
There's some cracking drives underway here. Wayne Boyd's is just one of them. Ross Gunn's is another. He's more than halved the gap to Mikkel Mack for a podium position in GT3. Now down to 4 seconds and 2 seconds quicker last time around, Ross. Yes, there will be traffic involved in some of these battles, but that's the battle you've got to win. We're approaching the last half hour of this 2-hour race, and it's not done yet, is it?
Giacomo Piccini in the Ferrari is trying to stay as best he can off the racing line to not delay these 2 cars, and actually gives the 39 car an awful lot of space there down at turn number 1. So onto the marbles briefly, the Italian, but he kept hold of that Ferrari nicely. He is the class leader in GT3, remember.
Yeah, but we need to watch that gap as well, because he went around last time at a 1:49.8, albeit with some traffic, but against a 1:47.3 for the pursuing Ricardo Pera. That gap is around 20 seconds.
And a moment or two ago was some contact for the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes. There certainly was.
That was Christian Olsen, was it?
In the RLRM Sport car. Yes, a bit of a shoulder barge there into turn 3, which resulted in the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes skating off briefly. Thankfully not into the gravel at turn 3, but out into the marbles, which took some getting back again. So car 35, 8th in GT3, with Stefano Pizzucchi doing the driving after he qualified that car on pole position.
Watching the pace of the lead battle, all of a sudden Colin Noble's pace has dropped off, and with that shots of the car, guessing that might well be traffic related. All of a sudden it was 9.4, is now 11.1. That's happened in about a lap and a half.
Well, remember that Hua had a couple of GT3s to get by. Has Colin Noble now reached that point where he needed to get by a Ferrari and a Mercedes, actually, that they were trying to lap in close succession? The 74 car of Victor Grosjean is now just heading out of turn 11 into 12 and 13 and the chicane that follows, and that one's not quite over, is it? Gary Hauser versus Bludgeon for racing experience rather, and Cool Racing. They are running 5th and 6th places. Over the line goes the second placed GT3 machine. 19.2 seconds separate Giacomo Piccini from Ricardo Pera, so can't see that changing before the checkered flag. And there's a job on Mikkel Mack's hands here to try and reel in either of those 2 cars. That gap, if anything, is growing now between Ebby Motors and Lucich Racing. What it does mean, of course, is makes things far more interesting in the championship. After coming here to Barcelona, it was firmly the advantage with Fabien Laverne and Mikkel Mack. They'll score pretty well with 15 points, but outscoring them, their main championship rivals, Giacomo Piccini and Sergio Pianazzola right now. And this could be just about the best result of the year for Ebby Motors if things stay the same.
Yeah, and the first time we've had actually anything other than a bronze driver in that car in their, well, growing history in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Yeah, I think it must have been, by the way, traffic for Colin Noble, because next lap up, he's within a tenth of the leader again. gap stabilises 11.2 seconds. We've got 27 minutes to go. See what happens in clear air now. Ricardo Pera, meanwhile, is catching, but not quickly enough with the remaining time to make a difference to the overall lead. Whereas Ross Gunn, under 3 seconds back now in his pursuits of Mikael Mack for a podium position. With Nico Ronde coming back and getting involved in that scrap. He now splits the two battling GT cars.
Just going back to Ebbie Motors, it was a couple of 8th place finishes during the 2 Road to Le Mans races in June. And before that, 9th place at Monza, their best result to date this season. Anyway, so yeah, 2nd place.
Pole position, haven't they?
Yes. No, I think you're probably right there. I need to check back on the relevant sheets, but the 88 car has looked strong at certain times. So yes, but it just shows, doesn't it? You know, you get a silver graded driver in rather than the 2 bronzes, and that can make all the difference. However, it has been nice to have Paolo Venerossi along with Alessandro Baccani, getting more and more used to that car and these GT3 machines. I'm sure we'll see Venerossi back in the car maybe before the end of the season, if not in future years.
Yep, certainly they've been a potent bronze pairing, and great to see them arriving back to this season with a new Porsche 911 GT3R, latest specification car. Great to see variety of makes in any GT grid, and we've got that here. 4 makes within the 9 cars in the class. Puccini is fending off the challenge of Ricardo Pera. Meantime, I'm pretty certain Lawrence Hurt has got the hurry-up call. 143.4 against 144.4 this time around for the battle for the overall win between the number 3 DCAR engineering car. It's Ross Gunn, by the way. We're talking about Ross catching Mikael Mack, but also in that train is the 54 car. Mettler is right there.
Yes, impressing me. The
Yannick Mettler, sorry.
Yannick Mettler, yeah, the silver-rated driver, and you've got a good memory. Monza last year was the 88th pole position for home ground for those 2 Italian drivers. Yeah, no poles just yet for 88. But of course, even if they retain Ricardo Pera for the rest of the year, he wouldn't be able to be utilised in qualifying. That's the beauty of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. All the pressure and all the responsibility on the bronze-rated drivers to qualify the car. But yes, Yannick Mettler, impressive in this pursuit of Ross Gunn. I mean, Ross is a brilliant measuring stick. If you can do those sort of lap times that the Brit can regularly punch out, then you're doing rather nicely. Some sideways drift action there for Yannick Mettler as well in his SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes.
This one also watching the battle, still away for 3rd position. Wayne Boyd is fending off the relatively close attentions of the previous leader for those 2 penalties. One for contact with the 51 car, and then for ignoring for just too long the call to take the drive-through penalty resulted in that contact. 2 seconds the gap between the 3rd and 4th place cars. The 24 car Wayne Boyd van, not the literal van, this weekend.
SPS Automotive Performance, by the way, if you're unaware, have been champions in things like International GT Open in the past with Thomas Lecole and Valentin Pierreberg, and we've had those drivers.
He was at, those 2 were with the team as the 2nd car at Le Mans.
Yeah, I thought so.
Interviewed Thomas Lecole in the pit lane. This is the 3-car battle now, by the way, for 3rd position. The gap between the 3 is now 2.4 seconds, side by side with Motorsport 98 and the Cool Racing cars.
Yeah, that feels like it's been going on for quite some time.
That is a change for 6th position.
There you go. So Dino Lunardi picking off the Victor Bludgeon driven car, Cool Racing's number 74. We had Bludgeon versus Gary Hauser not too long ago, but Hauser's checked out, hasn't he?
He has.
And for whatever reason, the 74 is not offering quite as much speed as it had maybe 5 or 10 laps ago. And yes, the opportunity was there for Dino Lunardi, very Italian sounding Frenchman, and he squeezes up the inside to gain the place. So Lunardi trying to hunt down Hauser now, and a spin for the number 9 car of Adrien Trier. So that car having to come in for a 1 second stop and go penalty. Meanwhile, over the curbs there going the 74 car. That's the reason why 74 was overtaken then. A mistake as you come out of the final corner leads to an overtake in turn 1.
That, by the way, gifted 9th position back to Alex Mortimer, the Green Market Racing car. Number 20 car back into 9th overall.
Mercedes leading a Norma and a Ligier prototype. So 3 unlikely competitors all together and fairly evenly matched into turn 4. The Grain Market machine number 20 of Alex Mortimer fending off.
Matt Bell is attempting to recover from those 2 separate punches, front, right, rear, left. I think I heard Louise Beckett tell us, talk back here. But Matt will be pretty fired up. Goes up the inside, let him go.
Which he duly does. Stefano Pizzucchi watching all that unfold and trying to stay as best he can out of the way. 22 minutes to go in this 5th race of the season, although round 4 technically speaking of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, with 2 more to come after this, but everyone involved in the Michelin Le Mans Cup taking a month's break.
Just ahead, that is another battle for position, the gold and black AMG, the number 7 Valour Corsa car. Pampanini, who's dropped right back down the order, under pressure now for his 6th position from Maurizio Mediani in the under 51 Spirited Race car. He's taken over from Christoph Ulrich, who was involved in that incident that caused the penalty to be handed out to the then race leader.
Out of the final corner goes the 35 car, Pizzucchi, to tick off another lap. Meanwhile, Roberto Pampanini, who's been knocked from pillar to post a little bit during this stint, but is now in 6th position, however with company, because Maurizio Mediani is right on his tail in the number 51 Ferrari. So Mercedes versus Ferrari for 6th and 7th. GT3 still led by Kessel Racing, and still about by the same margin. 19.5 seconds separate Pacini from Ricardo Pera.
The inside goes. Mediani takes that position. That is the change for 6th in class, and from 19th overall. Still tracking, by the way, that battle for the final podium position in GT3. It's still Mick Mack, 1.2 seconds ahead. Ross Gunn, but Yannick Mettler right with Ross Gunn. Through comes the 55 Spirited Race car,
which is the meat and the sandwich actually between now Yannick Mettler in 54 and Maurizio Mediani. And unfortunately for Mediani, that's about as good as it's going to get for the 51 Ferrari. That overtake on Roberto Pampanini gives him 6th place, but the rest of the runners are just a bit too far up the road now to be caught in the remaining time.
Yeah, Matt Bell looking to do what he can do to pull the car up the order, but 14th, maybe 13th is about the best it's going to be, even with pace here. Colin Noble, meanwhile, a better lap again, under 10 seconds the gap with 19 minutes to go.
Still,
and it's not traffic this time, by the way, for Lawrence Hurd. It's 145.1 against a 143.7.
Yeah, it's impressive the way that he managed to cut into the lead on that last lap. It just needs a few more of those over the next 5 or 6 laps to make it a true challenge for the race lead. We'll wait and see, because it's still possible. Lap 50, 12 seconds. Lap 51, 11 seconds. Certainly going in the right direction with lap 52 just completed. 9.6 now the gap.
Behind, Wayne Boyd still fending off Nico Schatz, managing to match the lap times within a 10th here and there. It's still 2.9 seconds is the gap, and behind that, Gary Hauser is, I was about to say under pressure from, but actually ceded 5th position to the Motorsport 98 car.
Yes.
Dino Lunardi has taken that slot.
Yes, so Lunardi managing to overtake the Cool Racing 74 and the Motorsport 98 car within the space of about 4 or 5 laps. Certainly not hanging around Lunardi. Back in the championship then with Team Motorsport 98. Very squirrely indeed for Colin Noble, an indication of how hard he is pushing then in the number 2 Nielsen racing car.
10.2 seconds with traffic as well, which will not help that pursuit, as ahead of him on the road is Ross Gunn. Yannick Mettler in the middle of that LMP3 sandwich. This is going to cost Colin some little time in that pursuit of the leader.
Through turn 3, go battling GTs, pursued by more LMP3s, and a Ligier versus normal battle, not for position, but Colin Noble trying to get by Christian Olsen and Yannick Mettler almost in one move. He managed to pick off the Mercedes there. This again is traffic that Laurens Heur's already dealt with, but now Colin Noble's got to work his way through, keep his head at the same time and try and lose as little time as possible, but the gap's back out to 11 seconds again now.
Absolutely. So Colin Noble looking to put another lap on. Last year's teammate at Nielsen Racing, Christian Olsen. It's not been a great race, I'm afraid, for the Ara Lorenz Sports pairing.
5 cars all together in the braking area for turn 10. The race leader, Laurens Heur, now with a GT car to have to battle past. Is that the 50 machine? Yes, it is, of Ollie Hancock. So that's a Ferrari that certainly won't be hanging around now in Hancock's hands. Out of turn 16, those 2 cars go together. You can pick up a little bit of a toe and then jink out to the right as Laurens Heur does, to hope to accelerate by as they go over the loop.
Door open on the 22 car.
Oh, yes. So another problem, and that's
unfortunately not on the driver's side.
Yeah, right-hand drive Ligier for Matt Bell, car 22.
It's going from bad to worse, I'm afraid, for the 22. Matt will be distraught.
Well, it's got a tether on it, so it can't go further than that point, but that is not helping the aerodynamics.
He's going to have to bring that down pit lane unless they can find some way to get that door closed.
I just wonder whether the tether is possibly snapped now as well. No, it's still just about hanging on, but he is heading to the pits. Why not come in and get it fixed, because the car's already at 14th in class and 19th position overall, so not a lot more to lose to ensure that that door can be slammed shut. It might be a catch failure, of course. Cool racing machines side by side. It's the number 4 car on the inside, which is Nico Ronde. Certainly not hanging around since he took that car over, and that will be a change of position, won't it? So
Ronde is ahead of Canton.
Yes.
4 from 96, looking behind and seeing what's going on here as the sports work and see whether that's a catch.
It's Romain Carton, who's just been overtaken by his teammate. Did they just slam that shut?
They slammed it shut with something else occurring with that.
Okay.
I think there's a broken catch on it. Looking to see what's happening with Ross Gunn. He's got Michele Rugolo in the Spirit of Race car between him and Mikael Mack. That's an interesting dynamic.
Still the time for this pit stop ticking down, and I'm fearful that it's going to go into retirement. Just mechanics exhaling, thinking we did not expect this to happen, and they're wandering away. I think Matt Bell's going to be clambering out of that car very shortly indeed. The number 5 car, which is the LMP3 from Marco Cencetti and DKR Engineering, now sticking a lap on Ross Gunn in the number 99 Beechstein AMR. That car is in 4th position, behind Mikael Mack and then behind Riccardo Pera and race leader Giacomo Piccini. But Ross Gunn, well, very close to Michele Rugolo, and cannot therefore shake Yannick Mettler very easily.
The problem is, what you've got is, Michele Rugolo has gone by Ross Gunn in a recovery for the 55 car. And then you've got Mikael Mack, who's a further 2 seconds up the road. So it's 2.8 seconds, 2.9 seconds is the gap between the 3rd and 4th place cars. So it's a good race car, it's its racing car, lapping it times. I'm just looking. Rugolo is slower than Mack here. Trying not to come up with a conclusion.
Okay. Matt Bell in discussion with those involved with car 22. Over the line goes Giacomo Puccini in the GT3 leading Ferrari. Right on his tail, CD Sports Norma. However, that car no longer really at the races because Kyle Bol-Besesson, despite his lap times being pretty decent, heavily delayed that car earlier on with repairs needed to the rear section of bodywork. Well, the rear cheese wedge basically that became loose and needed to be fixed.
But it's going to get a place if the 22 car stays on pit lane.
That's true.
Of that.
Yes, so car 22 at the moment timed as 25th, but stationary in pit road. CD Sport continuing on.
It's been a very strong run from the number 8 Kessel Racing car. Giacomo Puccini not under any immediate pressure at all now from Riccardo Pereira. 2 LMP3 cars between the pair. And the gap between them is some, it's that 15 seconds. 12 minutes left in the race. Michael Mack a further 16 seconds back in third place in the Luzic Racing number 71. Michele Rugolo still unable to squeeze competitive pace out of his LMP3 car.
Yes.
49s.
Yes, you'd expect quite a bit more from Rugolo. We know he is a rapid driver, whatever you put him in, and has raced GTs and more recently LMP3s. Clearly something not quite right with that car for the remainder of this race.
Not getting away either from Ross Gunn and Yannick Mettler.
This is a great fight between Gunn and Mettler, though, the 29-year-old Swiss driver.
This is 4 cars in a row, by the way, 4 position. This is, but overall, this is positions 15, 16th, 17th and 18th. But more particularly, 3 of these 4 cars involved in the battle for the final podium position in GT3. Keep an eye on this.
Well, Ross Gunn becoming more and more familiar with this particular chassis of Aston Martin as well. Had to step into the fold at Donington Park for the British GT meeting when Marco Sorensen was injured after Le Mans.
Marco Sorensen suffering, I believe, that factory Aston Martin lost a brake pad.
Okay.
Which is why he went off in such a
that
dramatic
was at
way.
that was at the Indianapolis kink, wasn't it? The right-hand kink into then the banked left-hander. And the car leaving the road at, well, just frightening speed and slamming into the tyre wall sideways. And Marco visibly limping away from the incident. I did fear for future races for Marco Sorensen. He's on the mend, but that kept him out of at least one race meeting for British GT, which is where this car is raced as well, the number 99 Aston Martin. Ross Gunn still just about clinging on to 4th position in that category, but the red and black Mercedes of SPS Automotive Performance is there, ready to pounce should Ross make a very slight error.
I'm going to call this one.
Go on.
Either that Ligier got a problem or he's backing that Aston Martin up.
Why would you do that then?
Both cars are run by the same team ahead of him.
Okay, yes.
That car has been consistently quicker than its pace to this point.
Yeah, so you've got the Luzic Racing Ferrari, which is effectively AF Corsa run, and the 55 car is Spirit of Race, likewise AF Corsa run. We've got many different team names and badges and flags to conjure with, but an awful lot, as is so often the case with GT racing and endurance racing, lots of AF Corsa machines when you scratch beneath the surface. Okay, so is Michele Rugolo trying to make sure...
He's got a problem. He's doing 148s, 149s in a car that is capable of at least 2 seconds quicker than that.
It could be a genuine issue.
It could very well be a genuine issue, but either way, the net result is that Ross Gunn cannot get to the rear of the Michael Mack car. You can see weaving there to basically say, come on.
Although no flashing of the lights just yet from the Aston Martin. The other danger is, of course, if you're pursuing a car that you just cannot overtake, engine temperatures start to skyrocket.
Indeed.
Cars do not like to be in the warm air and the unsettled air of those in front. But is Michele Rugolo just pulling off a bit of a canny game here, going fast enough so they can't overtake him, but slow enough so they can't reach Michael Mack. A wry smile from Graham Goodwin at that point. Out of turn 5 goes this fight then. Just under 8 minutes to go. Giacomo Piccini untouchable at the head of the order in GT3, so it's likely to be another win for Kessel Racing. And only a third place finish for Lusick Racing, which will condense things in terms of the championship hunt. Remember, it was 18 points coming here, so that will close to 11. And who got pole position? That doesn't affect things because that was Krypton Motorsport. So the extra point gain for that doesn't affect the top 2 in the championship.
There's a mark of the difference in pace. That is a car that led the race, isn't it? The Scuderia Villorba Corsa AMG, now lapped.
7 minutes to go. And yes, the 7 car with Roberto Pampanini. Now, is that the car with 2 bronze drivers to its name? So we maybe expected that to drop away a little bit. And on the other hand, Giacomo Piccini and Sergio Pianazzola are a proven force in this category of racing, being the defending champions.
That car, by the way, has just got 10 seconds added to the end of its race time for disrespect of the race director's instruction concerning turn 1 left-hand side. So that would have been something they would have been briefed in at the driver's briefing, and clearly race control not happy with some aspect of the behaviour of the number 7 Scuderia Villorba Corsa car. That at the moment is not going to cost it another position, certainly not in class. Risks costing it a position to Christian Olsen, who by the way is charging away here. He's picked up a couple of places on track after some woes for the 14 car earlier. His times are very good, in fact not a million miles away from the leading group, but I think it might cost, by the end of this race, Pampanini another position overall, but not in class.
Just correct what I said about Scuderia Villorba Corsa, because they do have a silver and bronze combination. They started with their silver, of course, Mauro Calamia, and now Roberto Pampanini's taken over. So it's dropping pace, if anything. Meanwhile, the number 11 car of Gary Hauser, again under pressure. This is Victor Blaujean trying to get through, and the Mercedes up ahead is certainly helping Blaujean to try and make the overtake, because Hauser's a bit too deep into turn 5, but manages to close the door again.
There's another battle underway, and that is between Ross Gunn and Yannick Mettler. 22, no gears I'm hearing from Lou Beckett.
Wow.
They've just had a horrible last 20 minutes.
So is that the car that had 2 separate punctures?
And no gears.
And now a gearbox failure? Or no
and
gears
the door.
Anyway. The door.
Oh dear. But the reason I mentioned the Beechstein car is very briefly up on the timing screen noticed the SPS car had got by Roscon. That then corrected itself back, and the gap was less than a tenth of a second. So they're battling away. They still have not passed. Michele Ruglo is still doing laps in the 149s.
Blaujean still trying to get by, and fancy the opportunity is there, because whatever pace Gary Hauser had earlier on in the stint seems to now have gone. And the Cool Racing machine number 74 wanting a top 6 finish to improve its points tally. Over the line they go virtually together, separated by just 0.3 of a second. 4 minutes to go, so they're going to get 2 more laps out of this, possibly 3 more laps out of this.
Yeah. I'll call a further thing, by the way, to do with Spirit Race car, which is if he is only capable of 49s, he's not in an overall battle for position, he's in a class battle. He should get out of this.
Yes. Yannick Mettler just having a little bit of a look at the inside of Ross Gunn. Is there an opportunity to get by there? No is the answer at turn 10. Through 11 and turn 12 go the GTs then, that are running 4th and 5th positions. Ross Gunn ahead of Yannick Mettler. What this isn't doing, I mean, if Ross is in an awkward position here, as in he can't get by, what he's not doing is providing an opportunity for Yannick Mettler to make the pass.
He's defending that position very well. So
yeah.
It's 4th position at the moment for the Aston Martin.
But not falling into the trap of being intimidated by it all,
no.
Not losing his head, just thinking, well, if this is the best we can do, we're sort of being forced to stay 4th, then fair enough. And they may be able to drum up some evidence that they were unfairly done to during the race. On the other hand, it might be completely kosher, and Michele Rugolo generally suffering from a lack of speed, but we'll wait and see. The Lusic Racing guys will be grateful of it, and they are running in third position, 22 seconds adrift of Ricardo Pera currently, but they will still get 15 points for finishing third, and behind Ebi Motors and Kessel Racing, who currently lead the way. 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Laurence Heur turning left, turning right at the chicane towards the end of the lap, still leading by nearly 15 seconds now. And that might be down to Colin Noble just easing off a little bit from his true pace we were seeing earlier on, knowing that it's again going to be a second place finish for Nielsen Racing. When on earth is that win going to happen, I wonder, for Tony Wells and Colin Noble? The number 2 cars come close on lots of occasions.
They're really good pairing in this car. The switch from to the Norma from the Ligier last year has worked in terms of helping to unlock more of the pace. Tony Wells looks better and better, and he tends to have this kind of trademark of maybe dropping back a little at the start of the race and then battling away to keep it in contention. But, there are some very good driver pairings now in this Michelin Le Mans Cup. And all too often, these races are decided by an error somewhere.
Yeah. Well, Colin Noble, Alistair McKay were victorious at the back end of last year in the number 79 car in those days, and that felt like it was a long time coming as well.
This is battle position here. This is Gary Hauser still holding off Victor Blouchon. We're into the final minute, by the way, on the clock. Oof, Blouchon tried a little bit too hard there. Gathered it up.
Still close enough. No, he didn't. If anything, he gained speed out in the dust there and off the track.
Quick and sliding line.
Yes.
It would appear.
40 seconds left on the clock. The leader's already onto his final lap then, Laurence Heur. As those 2 cars cross the line, 30 seconds on the clock, the race leader just coming through the final corner, so actually it'll be this lap and one more as the number 3 car crosses the line now with 20 seconds to go, and the last lap is indicated on our screen. In fact, 15.6 seconds is the leading margin over Colin Noble. Wayne Boyd, third place for United Autosports, and that's a great run.
Great run from Wayne Boyd. We can see here that there's a clear performance advantage again here for the Normas, and to put the lead Ligier where he has, with consistency that he's shown, great run from Wayne.
But also keeping the car out of trouble in the opening stint, Mike Gwash, and it could have gone so wrong on about 3 separate occasions. I tell you, keeping Mike on his toes was Rob Hodes, who is his teammate.
Yes.
There were 1 or 2 sticky moments, certainly down at turn 10. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And Mike Gwash, some cracking avoidance action and some overtakes as a result as well.
Meantime, in GT, it's set fair, isn't it, for Giacomo Piccini. Faultless run from them in the number 8 Kessel Racing car. Ricardo Pera 10 seconds back, and under no pressure either from Mikael Mack, who still has Ross Gunn 5 seconds back now, close to within 2-3 seconds. Michele Rugolo, not seen him do a lap under 1:48 since he passed that car.
Race leaders at turn 12 of a 16 corner circuit, so very nearly home and hosed for Laurence Heur and Francois Kerman, with another victory to add to their tally for the 2019 season. Arguably made a little bit easier, this one, because of the absence, sadly, of Mikey Benham and Duncan Tappy, who came here as the championship leaders. And over the line then goes Francois Kerman and Laurence Heur's car to take the victory. Great closing stint from Laurence Heur to complete the job. Arguably, though, the early part of that was all set up by teammate Francois Kerman, with some good overtakes needed to be done during the race as well. The GT3 race winner over the line, that's Giacomo Piccini, together with Sergio Pianazzola, who did the opening stint. Kessel Racing's guys are all up on the wall to call the number 8 Ferrari home.
Final lap though, and Nico Schatz has closed right up on Wayne Boyd, under a second as they cross the timing line for sector 2. Can Wayne Boyd hang on to that final podium position.
It's also going to be tight for 6th and 7th places as well. They are at turn 9, but this great cluster of cars are going to tumble their way out of turn 16 and over the line. Wayne Boyd just about hangs on from Nicolas Schatz. There's 3/4 of a second between them, and that is all. So the Ligier number 24 finishes in 3rd position ahead of the Graf car number 39 with an eventful race, I think it's fair to say. Blujean all over the back again of Gary Hauser, taking that rumble strip line on the approach to turn 13. Blujean now almost 2 abreast with the 11 car. Desperately wants this 6th place finish. I think he might, unfortunately, just miss out, but it's not going to be for the want of trying. He's off into the gravel this time as well, Victor Blujean, but does get back to the black stuff in time. However, it's going to fall short from that 6th place finish, and Cool Racing make do with 7th.
Yep. GT, Kessel Racing from AB Motors and Lucich Racing. Ross Gunn close to within a 10th of Michele Rugolo in the 55 Ligier. They meet in the GT sandwich for the final podium position. Well, that lacked for not a lot.
Absolutely right, and it's another victory for the Francois Kerman-Laurence Hoare combination, taking their first win last time out at Le Mans. So this is actually back-to-back victories now. It's taken a bit of time to get the number 3 car to the sharp end to take wins, but this could be the first of a few, and what it does mean is a change in the championship order as well. The gap was in the LMP3 category 8 points, I think I said. Yes, that's right. So it will switch very much in the favour of Francois Kerman and Laurence Hoare, who get 25 points each, and Duncan Tappy, Mikey Benham non-scorers this weekend. Tony Wells and Colin Noble finishing in 2nd position also get 18 points to their name, so that will take them to 61, and that will be enough to take them into 2nd place in the championship. No, just fall short of 2nd place, beg your pardon, in the championship, but it'll be very tight therefore between Tappy, Benham, Wells and Noble heading to Spa in 2 months' time. So the number 3 car is already back into the parking area, Parc Fermé, for the winners in each of the classes. The number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari and the number 3 DKR Engineering machine. Laurence Hoare about to clamber out, the 21-year-old German, and I'm sure to be congratulated very shortly indeed by Francois Kerman. But there's an indication of how happy Laurence Hoare is with that drive to the flag. He was put under pressure, at least for the first part of his stint, and then needed to be careful not to start to hunt down Nicolas Schatz, knowing that that car would be due in for a drive-through penalty eventually. It was too late, actually, in the eyes of the officials, because that car number 39 needed to come in for a 2nd time and a further drive-through penalty. The gloves are off for now. Giacomo Piccini, though, very happy indeed for his afternoon's work. And all he needs to do now is locate Sergio Pianazzola so that they can have a post-race hug and be very, very happy that they've got another 25 points to their points tally in the championship. DKR Engineering with victory then in this 4th round of the season from Nielsen Racing by 16.8 seconds. United finished 3rd in the best placed Ligier ahead of Graf, Motorsport 98 and Racing Engineering. The GT3 honours go the way of the Swiss squad Kessel Racing, Giacomo Piccini and Sergio Pianazzola ahead of Ebi Motors of Italy, Riccardo Pera in the number 88 car, and completing the stint for Lucich Racing, Mikkel Mack, after Fabien Laverne started that car. 3 cars did not make the finish, 2 of the United Autosport machines, sadly, 22 and 23, and the number 90 car. But we must get some reaction, quick reaction from Laurence Hoare, who's now with Lou Beckett.
Laurence Hoare, it was a great performance from DKR again, especially after the Graf got out of the way effectively for you.
Yeah, we were a bit lucky with that. I think we still had the pace to win it ourselves, I think. And then I was just able to control the pace a bit on the front, manage the gap, manage the tires. Was great.
Happy with it?
Yeah, quite. After Le Mans, another win feels good. We're leading the championship now, as far as I know. And just feels great.
Good to go and take your step on the podium.
I will do so now. Thank you.
Yeah, he's spot on with that because the team will move to 83 points, I make it now. And leapfrog, therefore, Duncan Tappy and Mikey Benham. We'll get confirmation of those points just as soon as we can. But that will look very good with 2 races to go and just 50 points still on the table. That is Sergio Pianezzola and Giacomo Piccini with their embrace.
Great result.
Absolutely.
And, you know, another faultless race from that pairing. Kessel Racing are getting the hang of this, aren't they?
They certainly are. And Sergio Pianezzola we already have heard from, of course, in the middle portion of the race. So high time we caught up now with Giacomo Piccini, the defending champions from 2018. Let's see what he makes of this latest victory.
Well, guys, it was great from both of you. Once you got that lead after the full course yellow, it was dominant. Who do I go to first?
No, of course, Sergio did most part of the job. Really, congratulations to him today. He did an amazing race. When he passed the Porsche, then we were a bit lucky with the penalty, but let's say probably it was there because he's been passed before the start-finish line. We will see. Anyway, the guys did very well also, the Porsche, so congratulations also to them. But really today, the team, my teammate, everybody did something special. So thank you. It's a pleasure.
Do you feel proud?
Yeah, I feel very happy, to be honest. Yesterday I was not that happy because I didn't drive that well, but Giacomo, as usual, gave me the right advices. I tried to apply what he suggested me, and the rhythm got very okay. So after the full course yellow, I managed to overtake the Porsche, and then I tried to keep on the concentration and to go on with my rhythm. I really want to thank you, Giacomo, and Kessel Racing.
Debbie,
great.
Debbie.
Congratulations.
We want to thank Deborah that make everything possible. It's amazing. All together, yeah, of course.
Team effort. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Great, thank you.
The team, Kessel Racing, and the drivers you heard from, Giacomo Piccini and Sergio Pianezzola. And, of course, the old team getting back together again because Pianezzola did race at Le Mans, but it's with Giacomo's teammate Andrea Piccini. So the two combining again after such a great year in 2018 when they won the Le Mans Cup together, got that Le Mans entry, and have now raced all this season in the Michelin Le Mans Cup together. Loads of highlights to just remind you of. First of all, of course, we had that start that wasn't a start when there was a second green flag formation lap. Rather untidy first time of asking. However, they got away much more cleanly the second time they charged down towards the first corner, and it was a good getaway from Adrian Schiller. They were side by side with Francois Kerman and Schiller into turn number 1. Also around the outside, Alexander Taukanitsa Jr. Sadly, that car would be quickly into retirement, the number 90 machine. GT3s all together in the very early stages, and Sergio Pianezzola trying to stay out of trouble. He was nearly collected there by a spinning Mark Crader for Grain Market Racing, but Mark would continue in the number 20 car, which eventually finished in 9th position. Also, the United Autosports cars with fun and games down at turn number 10 after Rob Hodes lost his car. There was also a big off-track moment for James Dayson in the RLR M Sport car, and that was on the run-up towards turn number 9. It was Pianezzola who was most awake come the restart. He managed to sell Alessandro Baccani a dummy at turn 10 to take the lead in the GT3 category. Ferrari overtaking Porsche then on the run out of turn 10 through 11 and 12. And from that point onward, the number 8 Ferrari would never be headed. Again, Baccani was a sitting duck into turn number 10 for the number 7 of Mauro Calamia, who managed to get the jump on the number 88 machine. And this was key to the race result because the 39 car was judged to be at fault after colliding with the Ferrari from Spirit of Race. Adrian Schiller thought that he was a little bit hard done to by the stewards, but to our mind, running out of brakes and slamming into the side of the GT car. That was the first of 2 drive-through penalties after Nicolas Schatz took too long to serve the first. 88 Ricardo Pera car overtaking the Ferrari there for 2nd position in GT3. For the 2nd time down pit road came Nicolas Schatz to serve the drive-through penalty. Then there was some door-handle to door-handle action between Wayne Boyd and Schatz towards the end of the race. But it was a victory for Kessel Racing and for DKR Engineering. They are victorious in round 4 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup here at Barcelona. And the podium makes a great sight on this early Saturday afternoon, and we have another race, of course, to look forward to today, with the latest round of the European Le Mans Series due to start in a little over 3 hours' time. But first of all, to the podium after a tremendous drive in the United Autosports Ligier JS P3 with the Nissan engine. It'll be Mike Gouache and Wayne Boyd to the third step of the podium.
Great run from both of them. Mike Gouache coming through the chaos at times in the first stint, but a massive racing effort from Wayne Boyd. So pairing will be relatively happy. They'll want the top step, but relatively happy with their combined performance in finishing second.
Second step of the podium, Nielsen Racing of the UK with their Norma, Tony Wells and Colin Noble to the left step, the second place step, but to the middle it'll be Laurence Heur and Francois Kerman to repeat the feat that they managed at Le Mans last month, and here's their national anthem. The national anthem of Luxembourg for DKR Engineering, theme, a piece of music that we've become regularly accustomed to when DKR Engineering did their winning last year and the year before with different drivers. And that's now 2 on the bounce, as I say, for Frenchman Francois Kerman and German driver Laurence Heur. They look to be a very good combination. However, Mike Gouache and Wayne Boyd need some third place trophies too, and there are a couple of bottles of champagne to be sprayed shortly for those two drivers. Mike Gouache, having previously raced in LMP3 a couple of years ago with Alex Brundle, is back again with United Autosports, so great to see the American driver there. And smiles for Colin Noble and Tony Wells. That was just about the best that they could do today.
I think so, yeah. I mean, we had the gap under 10 seconds for a while, didn't they?
They did.
But with traffic in particular, it would seem, trigger there, but it would seem that just had the legs on him this time. A great effort from the number 2 crew, better effort in the final analysis from the number 3 DKR Engineering crew, and that this is a team that just seems to bring highly competitive pairings to this championship time after time after time.
Yeah, they know their gradings very well. They obviously have lots of drivers that they can potentially tap up as well to get involved with the team, and consistency is often so key as well. The 5 car still needs a bit of speed, but Francois Kerman and Laurence Heur do take the championship lead. They move to 83 points. Duncan Tappy, Mikey Benham, thoughts for those guys because they weren't able to score after a huge crash in the practice session yesterday, and that means that there's been a significant shift in momentum as far as the championship is concerned. Tony Wells and Colin Noble do increase their points tally to 61, and now just 5 adrift, therefore, of the 66 for Lannon Racing. And Garrett Grist, 19th, didn't get a drive, of course, after Rob Hodes had that moment into the gravel trap at turn 3 a little bit earlier on in the race. As far as the team's championship is concerned, it's DKR Engineering that lead now from Lannon Racing on 66, Nielsen on 61, as I say. Graf still there in 4th position on 43.5 points, courtesy of a result from Le Mans, which has put them off the rounded points, if you like. And 5th position, the team that finished in 3rd in this race, 24 United Autosports. So they're not very far away in the championship hunt. And RLRM Sports there in 20th position with just the solitary point so far.
Just goes to show, doesn't it, what a strong season to this point had gone on from the Lannon Racing team. Luckless here, I'm afraid, after that big shunt for Mikey Benham in the bronze test yesterday. So no result for them as we get to the GT podium beginning to come together. Luzich Racing, Miguel Mack and Fabien Laverne can do no better than 3rd today.
Yeah, will they feel that that's a bit of a missed opportunity? I wonder. There wasn't, as you say, a great deal that they could have done about that. But Mikkelmack and Fabien Laverne still drove very well. And they couldn't, in the end, catch this man, Ricardo Pera, who's very, very happy with his afternoon's work, and joined by Alessandro Baccani, who's been there all season. So it'll be Baccani who carries the most driver points for Ebi Motors. But Pera with his first on the board, and he's got the right stickers on his race suit now as well. Hastily stuck on the very last few moments before the podium. And there are Kessel Racing's drivers Giacomo Puccini and Sergio Pianazzola, no strangers to a Le Mans Cup podium. Let's hear the national anthem for Kessel. So Giacomo Puccini, Sergio Pianazzola getting themselves 25 points. That will take them to 80 and slice the gap, well, a little bit. It was 18 coming here, so it will close to 11 points now. Puccini, Pianazzola from Laverne and Mikkelmack, and they are next door neighbours on the podium, but higher scorers. Actually, with Mack and Laverne finishing third, it'll be even more of a deficit now. So 18 points will close to 8 points, won't it?
Yep.
We get 15 for third position.
It's good that we've got some strong squads, strong competition. Ricardo Pera's introduction there. Well, we're interested to see what the plans are for Ebi Motors moving forward, whether or not this is just Venerosi's one-off absence, or whether or not this is what we've got to look forward to. Because if it is what we've got to look forward to, it's a highly competitive pairing.
Yeah, true. And we may well have 3 teams in the mix, therefore, for the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Well, the prize at the end of the year is big enough to warrant Ricardo Pera's signing for the rest of the season. So a chance to have a look at the Drivers' Championship first of all in GT3. Fabien Laverne, Mikkelmack hang on to their championship lead by 87 points. That's interesting. So it's closed actually to 7 points, not 8. Giacomo Puccini and Sergio Pianazzola second. Christoph Ulrich will be third, along with his co-driver Maurizio Mediani. And Andrew Howard on the same number of points, 44. So it's all very close outside of the top 3 positions. We'll also grab a chance to see the team's championship points in a moment or two as well. With, remember, not racing done for the day. There's a small matter of a 4-hour ELMS race later on. 7 points the gap then. Lusick Racing 71 lead it from Kessel Racing's number 8 car. Spirit of Race and Beach Dean locked together in third on 44 points and just 5 points above SPS Automotive Performance. So it is tightening up away from the leading 2 teams.
The other point to make here, we've seen this with Lannan Racing today. Those 2 teams on 44 points behind. All it needs is one of those 2 to win, and one of the teams ahead to DNF.
Yeah.
Or to not start the race for whatever reason, and it's a lot closer a race coming into the final race of the season. Yeah,
that certainly is the case. So DKR Engineering taking the spoils by just shy of 17 seconds over Nielsen's Norma and the United Autosports Ligier. Graf and Motorsport 98 together with Racing Experience complete the top 6, and Cool Racing, actually Racing Experience and Cool Racing have a terrific dice to the line, and it was only a matter of seconds that meant that Victor Bloujon missed out. Kessel Racing win GT3 and they are victorious in front of Ebi Motors, Lusick Racing and Beach Dean AMR, but as I say, one heck of a scrap now for third position in the championship, with 2 teams locked together on 44 points and then 5 points further back, SPS. So pleasing that Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller were rewarded after a very good drive today in the 4th round of the season. There is no Michelin Le Mans Cup round in August, so a question of waiting until September now for the visit to Spa-Francorchamps, and that will be over the weekend of the 21st and 22nd of September. The race itself actually down for the Saturday, the 21st, with qualifying the previous day. LMP3 classification gives us DKR Engineering as winners, of course, and the other DKR machine finishing a lap off the lead. 3 cars not classified. They are all the LMP3s, the 2 United Autosports machines. I cannot believe the bad luck that the 22 car had.
Unbelievable. 2 punctures, the door, and what was the other issue?
A gear selection
gear
issue,
selection
wasn't it?
issue that finally finished it for them.
62 laps completed by the GT3 winner, Kessel Racing, and they were winners by 9.2 seconds over Ebby Motors Porsche and the Lusick Racing Ferrari number 71. Beechdean AMR's Aston Martin just missing out on the podium, but, and Ross Gunn will be very happy about this, hanging on to 4th place ahead of the SPS Automotive Performance that was hunting him down for about 30 minutes of that stint. So a very exciting afternoon of Michelin Le Mans Cup racing. Belgium and Portugal still to come to decide the 2 championships. And as I say, that is not the racing done for our Saturday here at Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. The latest race of the European Le Mans Series is still to happen. That starts at 6:30 local time, and we're racing into the darkness with a 10:30 finish. Night time here, sunset, scheduled for about 9:20, so that's a good hour and 10 minutes in full darkness. Join us for that later on. For the moment though, Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer are off for a bit of a snack before we go racing again later tonight. Bye bye for now.